Welcome to the Comics Aficionados podcast. This is Wes. I'm your host as always. I have a great panel with me today. We're going to talk CB Cebulski's legacy at Marvel as the EIC. Then we're going to dip into the current civil war at Comicsgate for a little bit as well. First, returning to the panel, Tevye Smolka. What's going on, man?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me. I'm going to be here today, and it's morning, and behind me.
All right.
Happy 4th of July, everybody! Independence Day.
Yes. Happy 4th of July. I hope everyone had a good holiday. Next, Ash, you just made it. What's going on, man?
Ooh, bright and early, man. I had to get a in real quick, otherwise I was going to pass out in the middle of the cast, but I'm here.
I saw you were up late last night.
Yeah.
I know the feeling.
Everyone apparently had more fun than me last night. All right. Next, we've got returning to the panel, YouTuber and comic store owner, Persh. What's going on, man?
Hey there. Glad to be here. I'm mostly awake. Not too much. Been busy. June was a crazy month. June, we'll get into it, but June was a crazy month.
Oh, yeah?
Yep.
Business or personal?
Oh, no, business. Absolutely business.
Oh, that's good. Well, wait, no, you might have been moving, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay. I remember you talking about that.
Oh, God.
I bet that was a lot of work.
I've done that.
It's still a lot of work.
No idea.
Yeah?
You have no idea.
Yeah. Moving
a comic shop. Ooh.
Well, yeah, you have to keep track of all your inventory, and you probably have to restock everything.
Yeah, it's a pain, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. So last but not least is regular on the panel. He's our resident comic book retailer. Pele, what's going on?
Good morning, everybody. Yeah, I'm here. Got a headache, but I'm here.
Yeah.
I think Pele might have had some fun last night, but we won't hold it against him.
Yeah, a little bit. Not too much, just a little bit.
So some of
I'll
you may have realized my normal co-host Doc isn't here. Well, he stepped out of line with the wrong people, and I booted him off the show.
Oh,
not true.
Oh no.
Doc had business that was previously planned on this weekend. I think he had some stuff he's working on with his pet as well, and he just can't make it this weekend. But he will be back next Saturday to talk Batman with us in another great panel. But not today. We're talking Marvel Comics and EIC, CB Cebulski's legacy with the company. Pele, what are your thoughts, just initially, about Marvel Comics under CB Cebulski?
Well, I mean, it's not a complete dumpster fire. Like I guess it's probably fashionable to say, but he's made the decisions he's made, especially of late, have been really, really weird, and the whole situation around the Marvel 1000 just had me perplexed. I don't understand. I understand why they do a lot of the money grab that they do. I understand. I can even support some of the thinking that they've had, but overall though, it's been I can't really get behind anything that he's done, except for ditching certain. He's ditched a couple of certain writers, a couple artists that have been problematic, but otherwise he's been shit. So.
Yeah.
Oh, bummer.
All right, Tevye, what are your thoughts on Marvel EIC CC Cebulski in his first 20 months on the job?
I didn't see Cebulski as a whole. I think he's done an instant job. Like, he fixed him in Spider-Man, get damn sure off the book. Thank God. I mean, that book been suffering. That expanded on the book has been amazing. The Tom Taylor book has been good. On Wolverine, I love that book. I was pissed that that book got canceled. We have some pissed out about that. Making go about X-Men 3. Why? She's great at On Wolverine. Bring Matt Logan with a horrible idea. We really had a war. But besides that, the events have been awesome. Board's been great. Captain America, that's controversial, but that book is okay. Besides the whole cash grab with the Mullen Fountain stuff and crap, I think he did an okay job. But as for Bad Apples, yeah, the Bad Apples, so I'm glad they're gone, sort of. Something better, but I think he did an okay job so far.
So you're a bit more optimistic than Pele.
Yeah.
We'll go to Ash, who's he doesn't love Marvel right now. What are your thoughts on Cebulski's performance so far? Ash, are you there?
Ash? Yoo-hoo.
All right, Ash might have stepped away. Perch, do you have any initial thoughts on Cebulski's performance as EIC?
Yeah, I mean, I've met the guy. He's a nice guy. He's a very friendly guy, and I think there was a move made by the company when Alonso was, well, put it this way: Marvel and DC doesn't like bad publicity. They don't like it when certain things get out. When I say bad publicity, I don't mean like the kind of stuff that goes on Twitter. I mean more of the bigger articles are written, and Alonso got knocked quite a bit for the diversity articles are written about the retailer summit and the statements that were being made, and he got a lot of the heat for that. It was seen as a controversial character. So they bring in Cebulski, who's got a friendlier face. He's known as being kind of non-controversial. He's going to help kind of bring cheerfulness back to this role, which is what they were after. And I think he's done that. But the entire role of EIC, I think, is a lot different than it was with Shooter and Harris, some of the other people in the past. It's I would say it's a figurehead role, but he's doing a lot less than other people. And I think that's by intent. They've been controversial people, really done stuff, but Cebulski is not doing too much there, and I haven't been fond of because a lot of the practices have just continued. Especially where the retail is concerned, the weird cover schemes, the incentive programs. I'm sorry?
Of the variant coverage scheme.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, that stuff's all still there. And there were some statements made by Cebulski, like, I'm going to get rid of this. I hate this. And then here we are a year later, and it's still all here. So I don't think he has got much power. So it's a bit of a figurehead kind of role. And I don't, the problem is I don't think he's that good at PR. And that's what that role demands.
Yeah.
Every time he tries to hype something big on like social media or something, it all falls flat. And everyone's just like, why were we excited about this?
One point down, he's throwing bored at the situation.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think he's and it always feels awkward. It's like he's a guy who's a talent scout. He's done some other things that he's actually good at, and now they have him in this role. Yeah, he's a good editor.
Yeah, he did a lot of editing. He did a lot of talent scouting and things like that. But most of the management stuff he did for Marvel was actually in Asia for their attempts to launch Manga, correct?
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I think so. I think when a pseudonym, Yuji Shida, a pseudonym being a name.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that. That was stupid.
Yeah,
well, I mean, it was on a lot of ends. It was just everybody got bent out of shape on both sides. It's a pen name. Lots of people have used it. Whatever.
That's true.
There have been plenty of
pen name.
Plenty of women have written under pseudonyms that sound like men's names, so they can be more accepted into a market. Men have written under pseudonyms that sound like a women's name, so they can be accepted into a market. Yeah. It's common practice. That's whatever.
It's common practice, and I think it's I don't want to say shameful, but it's disappointing. I mean, you could see. And he shouldn't see this and know better. I mean, Marvel supported that name as a company back when he did it. It was not like he invented himself and tricked everybody in the company. They knew what he was doing. They in many ways, there's an argument that they pushed him to do it. So, but anyway, no, he's a good editor. And I think Marvel as a publishing company needs to go into South Korea, needs to go into China, needs to do these things. They're trying now, arguably, he needs to do this work. I mean, there's work for him to do, but in that role, every now and then they push him into this PR place, and it's just awkward. It comes across feeling really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I think Well, I think Cebulski is actually a good editor. I just think he's a horrible decision maker. He's a horrible leader.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think he's making many of the decisions, which is even, I think they're being made by the
quite
same.
high ups, like
Santa Amanat.
Yeah, Amanat and Casada.
Probably making a lot of them.
Yep. All right, so we haven't heard from Ash yet. Are you here, buddy?
Ash.
Uh-oh. I think he's still out.
Oh no! Damn it!
No.
Technical issues.
Oh, never
He's got
mind. He's having
technical
technical
issues.
issues. I didn't see that post.
No.
All right, so I just made a big video about this. It's about 20 minutes long, and I went piece by piece with all my personal issues, with the things that I think Cebulski can address. Like there are things that are above his pay grade. Like he can't fix things that Sana Amanat puts into play. Like that, those are beyond his reach. When she makes a decision, he can't override it. At least that's my understanding. So one of the things is like his first big initiative as EIC was the Marvel Legacy, where they went and they bean counted all the.
Uh-oh. No.
Oh no, we're down. We're losing.
Oh no, we've lost him.
We're losing.
Well,
Matt.
I think he was. We lost the host. That's
It's
not good.
Well, it's a good video. For people who haven't seen it, it's a very good video. I recommend you check it out. And it is nice and dissecting, if you will, of going through a bunch of the different pieces.
Mm-hmm. It is a good video. No, that's a video on business as a whole. Input from a business standpoint is up to insane. But I haven't been talking here with Marvel Legacy. I think Marvel Legacy was supposed to. I think did more of an Alonso idea that would force upon like Steve Cebulski.
Yeah. I think it's hard. I mean, man, everybody's tensions are so geared up right now with comics and the people in general. So it's often hard to kind of look at things from one piece to another. I think there's a recognition that the editor-in-chief role, I think, has become different from what it's been in the past. And so I think a lot of people had expectations that Cebulski was going to come in and then suddenly everything would be better. There would be, he would change everything. All the comics would get better. The great artists would improve. Jim Lee would start drawing the X-Men again.
Better lighted, finally.
Oh, he's back.
Rainbow
Unicorns. He's back.
Rainbows and unicorns to come shooting out of our
stream
ass.
died.
Go. You went over there.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's okay. Anyway, you were saying with Marvel Legacy?
Yeah. Oh, with Marvel Legacy, like none of the bean counting makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't understand the way they did it is inconsistent from title to title, and it feels like they're making up milestone numbers. And then, of course, it all culminated with Marvel Comics 1000. Pele, I know you've already addressed Marvel Comics 1000 to a degree, but what were your thoughts on Marvel Legacy and the recounting of everything and where it was inconsistent across the board?
Oh, they just kind of added like, oh, well, we did a comic about this, so we can add that to the number, right? Yeah, we can add that to the number. Okay. So they just kind of piled on any kind of, any Incredible Hulk issue that they could possibly think of, that could be related to the Incredible Hulk and add it to the Incredible Hulk's number. And it's just, oh God. It ultimately, does it matter? I guess I'm what I'm thinking right now. Sure, yeah, they've cheated to get to the numbers that they're at, I guess overall with their legacy numbering. But I just don't know how much it really matters ultimately. They apparently feel inadequate. They have some kind of they obviously have some type of they midlife crisis for a company or something like that, so they need to pad their numbers. It's kind of like the sock in their underwear, I guess. So if it makes them feel better, then go ahead.
Okay, that's a good analogy there. Nice.
If they need the little red sports car, I guess it's their little red sports car. They need a bulge to make them feel better, and okay, fine. It's DC's got a natural bulge. Maybe Marvel just doesn't have a big dick in the first place. So
it's It comes down to, and I've said it before, I think, and this has been a big source of argument. So with others, Marvel's marketing people, the people in charge of these kinds of decisions, feel like they're interns or drunk or asleep or just terrible at their job, whatever it happens to be. Because they come out like the numbering. It is like nobody cares. This is not how you're going to win back fans. When people have been complaining that the numbering keeps getting restarted and over and over and over, they're not so much complaining that the count isn't going up. They're complaining about relaunches of number ones every 8 months. That's what they're complaining about.
Yeah. With actually Marvel been doing that for a year. They did that before Marvel 2.0. They did before Marvel Start. They did before Marvel Legacy. They did again in after Secret War 2015. They've been so many. You're going to see the point. It gets way too much of insanity.
What?
Yeah, exactly. And and you talk to people at Marvel and talk to people at cons, and the answer is like, yeah, except those sell. So shut up. You're a store owner. You should be happy when we relaunch because they sell more. So we're going to keep doing this because it sells, and that so the fans clearly want it. So then they go to these very awkward schemes of, well, let's put the number underneath the number one number, or let's do the legacy stuff. I mean, they just kind of go all across the board of trying to patch up this issue. And it's put good talent on comics. The comic sells.
Yeah. Oh, look at Immortal Hulk. The numbers have gone up double since January.
Yep.
40,000 to 90,000, right?
Yep.
Well, it's crazy. It's absolutely beautiful.
They have been doing a lot of schemes with that title, but yes, it is definitely growing. But there are definitely it's probably safely in like the 60,000 range without all the attachments and the buy this to get other this. But it's your point is valid. It's growing. That's good.
I noticed that this last week it is our number one selling title now, bar none. And I'm like, wow! It's just the fact that it not X-Men, not Amazing Spider-Man, not Batman, not anything else. It's the Hulk, and I'm blown away by that because I've always been, ever since Peter David, I've been a huge Hulk fan.
Yeah,
and this just blows my mind. Ewing's politics aside, being a twat, I just absolutely, I love the story right now. It's great. It's probably in the best position right now of any of the Marvel titles as far as story. So
it's very horror.
I'm excited.
It's a horror movie.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful.
It's well paced. It's doing well. I hope Marvel doesn't do the thing they often do of now. Okay, well, let's give Ewing 5 other books and branch it off. Just keep this one title going well. Don't mess with it. It's my number 2 book. Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah, Amazing Spider-Man's a good book now as well. Surprisingly, I'm not a big fan of Nick Spencer, but that is one thing that I will give under Cebulski. I don't know if it's specifically his direction or his leadership that's dictated, but the very upper crust of Marvel's books are really great now, and they weren't before. Yep. Every once in a while they would have a Thanos or a book like that, but there wasn't consistently like multiple good books that they have. But now with an Immortal Hulk, Daredevil right now,
Spider-Man,
Amazing Spider-Man, Spider-Man Life Story, Venom.
Life Story amazing. Life Story is awesome.
Guardians of the Galaxy to a lesser degree. They actually have like some great books that you can recommend every week.
Yep.
X-Men, Age of X-Men is garbage. Like, screw Age of X-Men. It's such a stupid event. Hickman XMen is just save off series, which I hope it does.
Uncanny X-Men doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Uncanny X-Men doesn't mean a shit. So I'm just I'm over all the X-Men crap.
Yeah, we'll get to the event stuff. Right now we're going to talk about the big milestones. Yeah, and we're gonna move into another topic because Pele wants to put me in my place.
Speaking of Marvel Legacy,
what? No, I don't want to put you in. I don't want to put anybody in. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm teasing.
I have no idea what you're
talking speaking of Marvel Legacy, there's one thing I do want to talk about the Marvel Legacy one shot that came out during that year. Like DC, we read it with DC to leave it. Marvel, one shot, Marvel Legacy one shot. That one shot with the relaunch everything and welcome to every book. But that one shot, that a cash grab. Like, what the hell was that one shot?
It's Marvel Legacy.
Yeah, they did Marvel Legacy one shot.
remember going to my comics or the comic shop in San Antonio, and they had they must have had 150 of them sitting on the ends of everything. I was like, why'd you guys buy so many of those? And they're like, we didn't buy those. They just
yeah. But that one shot really is nothing.
That's a really big book to just get for free.
Well, yeah, they had to buy other titles, but I mean, some stores were getting 200% overship on that, and it's just now the overships kind of went down for a little bit, but in the last 3 months, like the Captain America, there's been some significant overships in the last month. I don't want that policy to return. I don't mind them, but Jesus, it just.
I saw, what is it, Invisible Woman, Loki #1, and so for some reason Invaders #7. Is that spinning off into a new series or something?
Yeah, it's significant to the storyline that's going on.
Okay.
I'm not concerned with Marvel Star Wars books. I dropped them a long time ago.
Yeah.
The ones that play beta. That's right.
Yeah. No, I mean, Hickman's XMen, I think, has a huge amount of expectations and attention. I've seen more of the preview pages. I suspect that will be well. If you like Hickman, it will be pretty good. But so that will help. I think that was a huge fuck up on the part of the company when he was supposed to come in October, and then there was a delay, and they had to patch it. This is an area where I think any company, DC and Marvel, and both of them are bad in this regard. Just when problems happen, just be honest. Just tell the fans, hey, we have this amazing creative team. We can't tell you who it is because of contractual reasons, but it's going to be delayed 9 months. So we're going to do some. Hey, we got Claremont here. We've been paying, so we're going to have him do 9 months of stories. Or just be honest about what's going on. Same thing with DC and Doomsday Clock. Be like, hey, we ran into some scheduling issues. Here's the truth. Just tell the truth. The fans will love you for it.
Don't lie. Don't do Hillary Clay's. You do Hillary Clay's.
Yep. So
don't lie. Don't try and hide it. That's the thing that DC's like. What do you mean? There's a delay with Doomsday Clock? We don't know what you're talking about. It's like just tell the truth. All of you guys, just tell the truth. Fans will love you.
So that kind of segues into my next thing. One of the things that bothers me is I feel like they're gouging retailers and customers at every opportunity. In 1 year, they had Amazing Spider-Man 800, an Amazing Spider-Man 1, and an Amazing Spider-Man 25, all premium price. They relaunched Uncanny XMen, knowing they were rebooting it within, I think, 9 months. Premium price. They added 2 classic X-Men characters people have wanted forever, Cyclops and Wolverine, on issue #11, premium price. Now they're rebooting the X-Men universe again, which they had already done in 2017. House of X, Powers of 10, #1, and they're both $6 again.
$6?
Yeah, it's $6 each. What's that?
No, it's terrible.
Nothing.
It's $6, but
it's awful.
Keep in mind, it was originally $9.99. So the company actually got a earful from retailers and other people.
Yeah, good. They did a criticism.
It went to $6. Now they've already done 2 $9.99 issues when they relaunched X-Men in October last year, not even 2017, 2018. Yep. And they're always #1 was $9.99. About 12 issues later, $9.99. So I was just calculating up. I'm pretty sure if you were following along with the X-Men just in the last 9 months, which has now been declared a waste of time by Marvel, you were spending. I'll get to it, but I'm pretty sure you were spending somewhere in the realm of
$500.
Yeah, $500 to $750.
With the Age of X-Men events, all the reboots, Major X, Mr. and Mrs. X.
The rip off. Yeah.
So I did notice that they added 16 pages of content to each #1 issue. They were originally going to be 40 pages. Now they're 56. Pele, do you have any idea? Is that going to be a backup story? Are they expanding the original story? Is it advertisements?
I don't think it's advertisements. I think it's just additional. I think it's just additional content. That's one of the things that it doesn't bother me as far like when you're talking about Amazing Spider-Man. Amazing Spider-Man fans, from what I can tell, from what I've talked to them, they don't care. They're like, oh yeah, it's more expensive. That issue costs more, but look how much more story I got. And look how big 800 was. Look how big #1 was. Number 25 is going to be an 80-page thing. And it's like, oh, okay, all right, you're you're happy. Well, I don't like paying. They're like, well, I don't like paying that much, but at least we're getting something for our money.
Yep.
So, it's like, okay, fine. I'm not going to, and I know that there are people that are more price sensitive than others. I fully get that. But if you are getting the content of a graphic novel for less than a graphic novel price, or what people are trained what a graphic novel price would be, it's hard for me to throw stones at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So, because full page art, is expensive.
Yeah.
That art is a lot of the art that's especially, amazing, flagship title level artwork that you see in ASM, is expensive. So
Really expensive.
It's, although I don't agree with the recurring price point as frequently as they do it, playing devil's advocate, I'd say that, at least people are getting money at least they're getting content for their money.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, when I went to order Amazing Spider-Man 24, I saw in the description it said 1 issue away from the landmark 25. I was like, landmark issue 25
again?
Yeah.
Hold on, Tevye. Let me finish.
Right.
So I go and I look at the solicitation. I was like, how much is that book? And I was like, $8 for issue 25. I just canceled my order. I was like, I'm not buying the book anymore. And if they do it with Immortal Hulk, I'm doing with that one too. I'm not. Issue 25 doesn't feel special to me. I don't care if you make it 100 pages. It shouldn't be. It's just issue 25. Just treat it.
If you build up a big storyline and this is the big climax and fans are loving that storyline, fans will go for an expensive double-sized book, sure, like they did with Inferno, some of the evidence in the past. But it's funny that the additional content in the X-Men books are going to be very similar to War of the Realms, where you've got some drawings and some sketches and some director's commentary type stuff. I love that kind of stuff. It's always I would prefer that they offer a more like War of the Realms did, a more expensive version with all that stuff and a cheaper version without it, so fans can pick. But I'm with you. I think you can't just say, hey, it's 25. This is a number that kind of sounds important, so let's boost it up. I mean, you got to tie it to something that people care about, and that's the story generally.
Yeah, I mean, if it was the conclusion of Hunted, which was a great storyline that had everyone buzzing about Amazing Spider-Man, yeah, double, triple size issue and throw something behind it, but it's just because it's 25. That's what it's bothering me. I'm tired of every issue number 1 being double or $5, no matter what the title is or the pedigree of the team, and they just there's like an extra 8 pages. Like Savage Sword of Conan number 1 wasn't improved by those 8 pages. The story was good. I could see the 8 pages they put on at the end. It didn't add anything. But it cost.
Yeah,
well,
but
it depends. It really.
Oh,
go ahead, Tevye.
Sorry to interrupt, but speaking of issue 25, didn't they try last time with the $10 issue on Dan Slot's run? After Conspiracy, they did a $10 issue, and that $10 issue would not work. It was a cash grab and a waste of time. I'm hoping this time this issue 25 means something, but I'm feeling critical of this one. I'm with you on it. Why would you not issue 25? Like, why don't you delete the number and just keep it going until until issue 900? You want to charge that much? 900? Fine. But don't try issuing 25. That's insane. But from a price standpoint.
Unfortunately,
I hope it's worth it.
No, it's unfortunately the Superman and Batman issues that went to 1,000, charged $10. That was really popular, and that sent a message to the stores and to the publisher. Almost the publisher, do more of this, unfortunately, and that's been a challenge, because when the market sends the person the opposite message, then they do more, and it drives the fans nuts. But
those Marvel or those DC issue 1000s, those are legitimate milestones.
They are.
Action was the first book ever to release 1,000 issues. Detective is the only one to ever do, the second one to ever do 1,000. So those feel, those feel monumental to me. And I bought 3 of Action Comics and 1 of Detective because it felt like I wanted to be a part of it. I don't want to be a part of Marvel Comics 1000. And the weird thing is, I know Doc Doc's the biggest X-Men fan in the world, and he feels jilted by what they did by rebooting Uncanny X-Men, launching Age of X-Men just to get them to another reboot and then charge premium prices again. I want to invest in Jonathan Hickman's X-Men because I like East of West. I think it's a good book. I think he's a good creator. I think it's cool that he's going to be in charge of the X universe. I think he can do it right. But them throwing the premium prices on again, it's like, fuck you guys. Doc, what are your thoughts on that, man?
I think it comes down to I'm not going to keep throwing big dollars at every reboot. It's the reason why I'm done with modern comics.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the whole situation literally lost me on modern comics.
And you're talking about the X-Men constant. It was that 3 reboots in 2 years, right?
Yes. And I mean, you've had look, going back since who was it? Kieran Gillen or Kieran Gillen. Since he rebooted it, you've had about 10 or 15 X-Men reboots in what 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
It averages out at about once a year, and they might get 2 years here, but they'll get 6 months there. I'm fucking tired of it, and I'm done buying new books as a result. Especially, they'll launch with an oversized double price issue, and then they'll get to issue 10 or 11, and then do another one. And then they'll jump to an event with another #1, and then once the event's over, they'll reboot with another #1 and another double-sized, double-price book. I'm fucking tired of it, and I'm done giving them my money for it.
Yeah, and the Uncanny X-Men #1 reboot featured the extra pages weren't that the main story. It was 2 or 3 extra stories, and they weren't illustrated very well. It was I wouldn't want to read this anyway. This sucks.
They were another tryout. They were the big issue #1. I mean, first of all, why that stung. So Doc and I had talked back and forth about this on Twitter, and maybe to validate his point a little bit, I did a count up of how many people had pre-reserved at the X-Men reboot in 2018, the $9.99 one. And I had 120 subs for it, 120 reserves. The Hickman relaunch, I've got 70. And the crowd's still coming in, but here's what makes me insane is Hickman's, like you said, a way better creator. And the artist is much better too. I think they've got a really good team with this new one. But I do think there's a feeling of, you got me last time, because the last reboot in October, it promised this is a new era. This is a team. We're going to make the X-Men great again. This is it. We heard you. We've been screwing them for a long time. This is going to be serious. We are serious now. And that was a message they sent to everybody. And they knew at that time, 9 months later, this was just a stopgap for another reboot. And fans feel legitimately like, you got me, and I'm mad. And now some of those people come in and buy it off the shelf, but 50% loss. That's people like Doc. I agree. It's people like Doc who are going, I'm not doing it anymore. Enough.
Yeah, and as retailers, you guys, your bread and butter is your subs.
Sure.
That's where you can get a good idea of whether or not it's going to be successful, how to order, how to. So if there's a lot of people like me just gonna maybe consider buying it off the shelf, not putting in the pre-order, not obligating myself into buying it, it screws with you guys. It screws with you guys as retailers, because you now have to just start guessing with a shot in the fucking dark.
Yeah, it's all risk now for us. It's all risk, unless you're like other folks who are doing more back issue sales. But basically, here's the message it sends to retailers, and sometimes the publisher, like some folks at Marvel, going, "Hey, you know what? Don't reserve things. We know time stuff. Don't reserve it. Just buy it off the shelf." Hey, thanks a lot, guys. That's blowing your business, and unfortunately, it's just teaching the retailers to be to move to other places, to invest in back issues, to order lower, to recalibrate their business so they're not relying on the publishers either. And it, you know, it's destructive, and that's where we are. Yeah.
So, you know, in my video, the opening, like the hot entry was, you know, every issue #1 is a new jumping on point for new readers, but it's absolutely a jumping off point for older readers that are tired of reboots and tired of paying premium prices for issue #1s.
Yep.
And it sounds like you're having that issue with the subs. Pele, are you seeing the same thing with you know, people subbing for the Hickman XMen run as well?
I've not seen as much of an impact probably as Perch has, because I'm primarily a back issue shop now.
Yeah.
But I have seen it. This latest relaunch really, for some reason, caught some excitement, and subs were up, and I was like, wow, this is great. People are interested in X-Men again because of the whole red, gold, blue, purple bullshit.
Plaid.
Plaid. X-Men plaid. No, what a back, man. We're past. And people, after all that, and people came back, and I was like, wow, this is impressive. You know, I ordered, I think for me, I ordered 150 copies, which is nuts for you know, a relaunch title.
Yeah.
But now I have seen a lot of excitement over Hickman, but I've not seen people step forward and say, I want that.
Yeah.
I've seen more of like, I might check it out, or I'll think about it.
Yep.
So it's there's more hesitation, there's a more tentative nature in it, and I'm probably going to order 50 copies.
Well,
you know, 50, 75 copies.
Part of what's going to,
because of that.
well, I think part of what's going to hurt this one is last time they just relaunched X-Men. They relaunched Uncanny XMen with the #1. Okay, fine, whatever. But this time they're doing 2 bi-weekly mini-series in opposite weeks, so it works like a monthly title that you kind of need to read both, but you don't really need to read both, but you should read both. And then we don't know what's coming afterwards. Is it going to be yet another relaunch?
Yes.
You absolutely have to read both, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no reading one or the other. You absolutely have to read both, or you will be confused. It will be more confusing than Hickman. It'd be like if you read every other issue of East to West. It just would not work.
Yeah. So sticking it in 2 titles.
Yeah.
In doing it over, 3 months? But you have to read both.
Yeah.
And this is after 9 months after already doing 1 X-Men weekly title, and you're essentially doing another X-Men weekly title that's going to lead to another relaunch. No, you're just going to the well too many fucking times.
Yeah, I can break some. I don't know if it's public. Oh, I apologize. I want to Pele, go ahead.
Oh no, go right ahead. I'll add in a second.
Doc, is that your street noise?
Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay.
Let me mute.
It's
background noise.
No, I mean we're
ahead,
getting, so you're about right. So we're getting 6 issues. We're getting some issues here of kind of this introduction back into the universe. It won't feel like a relaunch. The new titles that are coming out that are going to get announced here in about a week. Most of them they'll grow out from this. The whole Hickman plant seed thing is about kind of branching out this universe. So it will feel like it grows. And I think, again, if this was done in October, I think it would have been embraced and a lot of fans would have liked it. The creators that they're bringing on for some of these titles, especially the flagship ones, are good ones. They've got, some nice, backload level talent that will come onto this. Some of the Marvel artists that have been hiding for a bit. So there's some good people coming on. The whole risk, though, it's what I said earlier about Cebulski. The people want to be told the truth. And so the fans are desperate to get honesty. And in October of last year, Marvel told the people, hey, look, we know it. We know we've been mistreating the X-Men, which was honest. That's why people were like, yeah, we're in. They're telling us the truth. They're admitting where their failures are. It's kind of like DC Rebirth, Where if, you know, they did the Wally West bit 4 months after Rebirth, the fans would be like, what the hell? You said you were going to go for optimism and you murder the guy. They're still angry about that, but at least it's a few years. With Marvel and X-Men, it really felt like that. Like, hey, we admit it, we messed up, we're going to do it right this time. And then to have that, you know, revealed as a sham, that's what got people all pissed off. The Hickman run, I think, will do well, but they got to win the fans back to it. And that was just unnecessary.
And you know, one of the other problems is after X-Men, Uncanny XMen number 10, when Age of X-Men launched and it like shrunk down the universe and the team got a lot smaller, it actually got like, it was a good series. I was like, oh man, this is great. This is the best X-Men I've read in a long time. You know, Extermination was a cool miniseries, but this is one of the best X-Men ongoings for a while. And then it's like, oh, you knew it all along that none of this mattered. You know.
Yeah.
And, so, Teddy, I know you were wanting to speak. What did you have something to say about the X-Men relaunch?
Yeah, I want to talk about it because the X-Men relaunch. I'm actually excited about it because the X-Men have been screwed over the past few. We had the Inhuman X-Men, which is garbage. We had Inhumans on the X-Men, which is stupid. The Death of X was garbage. I mean, so much bad music. X-Men Blue was bad. X-Men Gold was kill me. X-Men Red was the best thing X-Men Red. That book is very underrated. I love that book. That's my opinion. So I'm looking for a Hickman because this Hickman miniseries sounds awesome. Why? Because you have 550 X-Men. The X-Men need a major reboot. Because the X-Men haven't fucked the damaged beyond repair. We had the fix the X-Men Blue. That was those guys. Thank God. And I'm hoping Hickman does 5 things. Bring back Charles Xavier to rule Professor X. Get rid of his whole Professor X and not Sarah. I mean, Phantom X's body. That was weird. What's the first? Oh yeah, I know. Like, make the timeline make sense. Do not do no more time travel crap. Most of all, please make this make sense. And I'm hoping the Hickman XMen fix a lot of that stuff. Fix the timeline, fix the X-Men, and finally give it a considered X-Men universe again. Because Age of X-Men is a complete and utter clusterfuck of an event. Like, what the hell is Age of X-Men? I'm lost. Why do we have 5 different miniseries in this one big event? This ain't Age of Apocalypse. This is stupid. Like, Age of X-Men, I don't know what that is even in that story. I avoid all the miniseries. They're pointless. Under X-Men good, but
we'll talk about events here in a little bit.
Yeah,
so one of the things that, you know, the other issues that I talked about in the video is it's the variant cover schemes. House of X #1 already announced 17 variant covers. I'll be shocked if it's not over 30. Marvel Comics fake number 1000. I think they've announced 23 variant covers so far. If that thing doesn't reach 100 variant covers, I'll be blown away. You know, Fantastic Four, I think, had 70. Tony Stark Iron Man, I think, might have had over 60. Pele, what are your thoughts on the variant cover schemes that Marvel seems to be addicted to?
I thought that they'd learned their lesson a while back. They kind of throttled back a little bit on some of them. They weren't just like, you know, giving us 20 variant issues of like Daredevil #4. But and it did seem like they did pull back from like the death spiral of Fantastic Four #1 and all that. But right now it just seems like they just, you know, were taking a breath right before plunging their head back under the surface again. And oh God, I can only imagine how many variants. What is it right now? Is it 35 variants of X-Men #1 already slated? So they're talking about. Plus, they're gonna have an additional 40 store variants, which I don't mind store variants. I don't mind store variants because they're going to be very specific to each store, and only the real crazy hardcore people are going to want to get all those anyway. But it's still that's crazy to me. That's absolutely insane. So
yeah, we're 45. We're 45 official variants right now, and growing.
Oh.
So
wow.
do you think,
Jesus.
Perch, do you think Marvel Comics 1000 will reach 100 variant covers?
No, I mean, they will with the store variants. I think I'm guessing it settles somewhere in the 50 to well, I don't know. There was talk I heard where every artist who was in that book was going to have their own variant at one point. It doesn't look like that's happening, but I think we're easily going to pass 50, probably settle in the 75 range. That would be a guess. And then store variants. A lot of stores are going in on that, but like Bailey said, stores, that's their business. They commissioned that. They did that. No harm there. But yeah, I think probably in the 50 to 75 range is where I'd pick it.
All right. Hey, Ash, are you good on audio now?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I
Yeah,
can.
we can hear you.
All right.
Hey,
Welcome back
there
to
you
the
go.
stream. We missed
Yay.
I had to do
All
a
right.
workaround.
So we talked a little bit about the pricing. I don't know if you want to cover that real quick because we're moved on to the variant covers. But what are your thoughts on these subjects?
Which subject particular do you want me to talk
Well,
about?
we're on variant covers, but if you want to talk about pricing and get your thoughts out of that and onto the variant covers, we can do that.
No, I think you guys covered the pricing. I was going to talk about the X-Men, but we moved on about that. The variant covers as a consumer, I hate it. I think it's one of the worst things that's happened to the hobby, in my personal opinion, since comics has been around. You know, we saw this all coming in the 90s, you know, with Todd McFarlane launching SpiderMan, and then the huge success of that, and then Jim Lee blowing the roof off with the X-Men launch, and the 5 covers. Remember when 5 covers was like, oh my god? You know, nowadays we just go, oh, it only has 5 covers? Oh geez. And then we saw the speculator collapse happen, and there was a lot of reasons, not just, it wasn't variant covers that did it, but certainly the gimmickry and all that stuff contributed towards the problems. And it's like, instead of the industry changing and going, let's go back to what worked, let's go back to what fans liked, it was like double down, triple down, quadruple down. And the Batman wedding issue had over 100 covers, and it wasn't even a real wedding.
They're all lie.
It's so predatory on the fans, I feel, because I was just having a conversation on my Discord server the other night about like Batman White Knight and about how much I love that series, and I'm like, as a fan, I want to get both the covers, but then I realized that's the problem, right? Because everyone is every book has its fan. Even the books that I hate, someone's a fan of it. They want to get the books, and then there's the people who just buy comics because they don't read them. They want to collect them, and they get all the different covers, and it stresses. It's, even if you don't think so, even if you like it, maybe you hit a rough patch in your life because something happens, your finances, and all of a sudden your pocketbook doesn't stretch so far, and you're like, but you still want to keep buying like your normal habits. And I see so many buyers, so many, just consumers going, I'm done with comics, because they push themselves so hard to keep up with something that they really shouldn't have. And instead of, having the reaction of like, I'm just going to tone back and not buy these covers, and they just bust. And it's unfortunate. And I feel like the comic companies could do something better by not pushing. I know it's a capitalist society and they're a business. They want to make money. I get it. But there's different ways to make money. And gimmick after gimmick after gimmick after gimmick eventually just burns your customers out, and they go on to different avenues, and it doesn't make your book better.
Yeah, well said. Well said.
Sorry.
No, go for it.
It kind of reminded me of the 90s manga department, because during the 90s, we had the big speculator bubble. But like you said, Ash, that speculator bubble, it went up and up and up, and it went all crashing down, and just the company went to like collapse in itself, because like overpriced gimmicks, too many events, pricing that went insane, and collected like buying issues because they were, this book will be $1,000 in the near future. Well, it turns out it was all a scam and all the bullshit, and that's what the company is collapsed in itself, because they went greed and corruption, and it got so greedy to the point that, oh shit, we messed up. Right, then Marvel went into bankruptcy.
Let me say one more thing too, real quick, because that something that really bothered me lately that Marvel's doing is this new Carnage secret variant thing where they're putting the blood splatter on the trade dress of various Marvel comics that are coming out currently.
Huh.
And my understanding is that that's about a 1 in 3 print run. So you'll see the cover, like Immortal Hulk was one of the recent ones. Issue 20 came out, and you can get the version of Immortal Hulk, same cover, everything's the same, except the trade dress part has some blood splatters for the Carnage event. But not only does it have blood splatters, it has an extra page of content in the book. Now, they didn't tell anyone about it, at least not my store didn't know about it. It was kind of this thing they just kind of launched and did it. And I found out on one of the I think it was Venom or some other book that had come out. Well, what my store did, because these things sell out quick, and then we're kind of a large store, and like a lot of speculators go there, they pulled all those books aside and then sold them at a markup. So if you wanted those books, you had to pay $8 instead of $4 for that cover.
Ooh,
That's wrong.
That's wrong in some way.
The way we handled it.
I agree that
I was just going to say the way we handled that. Go ahead.
I was going to say I agree that it's wrong, but I also don't fault them too much, because unlike the way DC does a lot of their variants, where it's just order whatever you want. Here's these different variants. Pick the ones you want, or if you think it's going to sell, order it. They didn't give the dealers a choice on how much to order. They just launched it. And so they had a shortfall, and the fans didn't know about it. So I couldn't even call my store and say, hey, hold one aside for me or anything like that. So they just pulled them aside and said, here's the best way to do it. And they sold out. And so I'm like, I don't really fault them if they can sell out, but I kind of
I don't think that's the best way to handle it, though.
I
don't think that's the best. What we did basically with those in particular, the blood spatter ones, the people that are the longtime file customers, they got one. I don't care if I could have sold it for $20-25 a piece. Those people that are longtime customers, they got one of them at cover price. And, we went through the file customers. All of them got one. If there were any left, and there weren't any left, there weren't. There were just the regular covers left that went out on the rack. Tough titty. I'm sorry, there aren't any left. I had to take care of the old-time I have to take care of the regular customers. And the people that have been with me for a while, I'm not going to give them just a regular issue when I know that I've got a premium issue, and then just try to squeeze everybody for some extra money. No, it's not worth $1, even $4 extra on that.
Well, it's not. So. You're right, and it's not. Oh, sorry, but you don't put the retailers in that position in the first place. I think that's what the Ash is saying. I mean, I agree with you, but don't. Why are you doing this to your retailers? You're just making their business harder.
Right, and the problem was this was a 1 in 3. It was my understanding that they were telling me it was about 1 in 3. Well, they don't order. Random. They have their subs for a lot of these books are well above 1/3 of the total issues they buy. They order very conservatively. So my understanding is over half of the books that they order are because of subs, and they order a little bit extra for the shelves. And so in that case, now you have to decide, well, which of my subs get the book? And that's kind of a bad situation too, because if I'm the customer and I come in and go, what, you gave Joe a copy but not me? Why is he better? And again, to purchase thing of your
that's why if you go by seniority, you don't have those problems. And somebody says, well, why did they get one? Well, because they've been a sub here for 3 years longer.
Certainly. Certainly,
and
it creates a bad.
That's the only way that I could really do it. That's the only way that I could do it, to where I could point to something and say, this is why. Because this guy's been here since 2004, and although I appreciate your business and I love you personally, you're a great guy. You've been here since 2013. So,
but they made you choose between your children, right?
But my point is,
a lot of people aren't
even going to ask to get the explanation. They're just going to be pissed off. I was pissed off when I saw. I was like, "Are you kidding me? You're selling these books?" I have no chance to even. I was like, "I'm not paying $8 for these. This is stupid." I was just pissed off in general. I was pissed off that they do this to the store. The store that I go to is big. it's not run like by the owner. I don't go in and like talk to the owner. It's just got employees, so they don't even get to make the decisions like this. So it's just a bad thing all around. And I just the whole variant, they have a shelf for.
Tevye, we can hear something.
Yeah. All right. Sorry.
There's a fight going on.
they have like a shelf
fight.
for all the variant covers. So the Marvel does the 1 in 10, the 1 in 25, and those immediately go up on a rack. And like the War of the Realms, I remember I took pictures of the covers. Like the Electric cover was like $125. And like some stores will do a lottery instead of trying to sell it. They might just say, here's everyone that gets War of the Realms, we're going to put you in a thing. And, oh, hey, Chuck won the special cover. And that's one way to handle it. There's no real right way or wrong way. The companies are putting this in the hands of the dealers to try to make lemonade out of lemons. And it's not really fair. And this would not be a problem if they just made good comics that the dealers could then push and say, hey, this Immortal Hulk is really good. You should just buy it because you'll love it, and people will go buy it because they love it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
here's my problem with it. It's not true incentive issues. If it was like a 1 in 3, that'd be great. But like one guy near me, he's my physically closest competitor. He ordered 50 copies of Immortal Hulk. He got 8 of the blood spatters. I order 100 copies of Immortal Hulk. I get 100. I get 100 copies an issue now, which is double. And I got 42.
Okay.
So I was actually able to fill. I know. Yeah, that's what was so crazy about it. And I was able to cover all but 2 of my file customers for Immortal Hulk with blood spatters. I didn't have any left over for me to sell above and beyond that, but I did put them in. I was able to fill all the file customers out. But if they were true incentives and they were actually, accurate ratio, then that would be one thing. But it just sort of seems like, oh yeah, whatever the hell, they're going to get like 1 in 10. These other people are going to get 1 in 3,
right?
1 in
so that
2.
I didn't know that, and that sounds even worse. But a bigger issue
I
had on this is unlike other variants, this actually had extra story in the books, is my understanding. So if you're like, oh, I'm a big fan of this, I want to follow this Absolute Carnage thing, I'm not getting this particular story because I'm not getting this book. I'm stressed out. I have to go get it. It's just bad all around. This is not how you treat your customers, whether they're your customers, the LCS or the end buyer.
Mm-hmm. It's not, and it's a lot of this. I mean, David Gabriel, who's still there, of course, and a lot of the schemes that were put in place were hotshot schemes to try and increase sales. Some of this was done pre-acquisition by Disney. It goes back because they were trying to boost some numbers in some places. But then when you're with Disney, you have incentives for revenue targets and other things. So it became this scheme to try and hit those targets year after year. And unfortunately, you have to let go of some of this, and that's going to cause a drop, and it's going to cause some embarrassment, and people are going to lose their jobs at Marvel. But that moment has to come because these schemes are being built on top of schemes. So the foundation is crumbling, and it's bad for retailers. It's bad for the people, and you're just putting junk comics out. It's a complete mess, and it's making the retailers outside of Marvel and DC and all this stuff are having a really hard time now with just taxes and rent and Amazon and things that are on you. These are just real factors that are there. And so if on top of that, you're making a confusing cash grab mess, you're destroying your direct market. You've got a bunch of people employed there now who do not understand why the direct market is kind of saving your butt. And it's all leading to a very bad place unless somebody takes the reins and actually pushes. But a lot of people, and certainly at Marvel, and I think increasingly at DC at the top, are playing a game of just, let's get as much numbers as we can this year, get my bonus, get my stock incentives, and hope that there's a place for me in the movie division at some point when it all falls apart. And that's lousy.
Okay, so
hold
up.
Oh, go ahead.
So I wanted to cover one more thing before we move on from the variant stuff. So one of my issues is is they do these limited variants where you have to order 100 issues and then you can get the variant, or 250 issues where you have access to the variant. So your superstores like your Midtown Comics and your My Comic Shop in Dallas and stuff, they're going to have access to all of them.
Mm-hmm.
So you're putting the smaller shops at a competitive disadvantage to where they feel compelled to go above their means and order books that they can't sell to get their hands on limited variants for their whales, to where they're overextending themselves. And that's one of my biggest issue is in order for the smaller shops to compete with the mega shops, because they ship everywhere in America, they're having to overextend themselves and put themselves in financial positions or make decisions where am I going to lose this whale customer that's one of my primary sources of income because I can't get that variant cover, and it's making them make poor decisions. And I just wanted to ask Perch and Pele on this. You're both retailers. Do you ever feel compelled to actually go up, or do you see your competitors or your friends in the business having to make those decisions?
Yeah, Pele, if you want to hit it first, I'll go after you.
Mm-hmm.
No, I've not seen it as. I'm sorry, I was in a conversation. I've not really seen that as much. I've not seen them have to really make those decisions as much, but I know that they have. I know that it's kind of put people. I know it's kind of put them on the spot. So go ahead, Perch.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think. Well, I mean, put it this way. I'll tell you a story from a retailer. Something about it. I don't remember now if it's 1 or 2 years ago. Gabriel and some of the other folks who run this business out of Marvel and DC does the same. We'll have meetings and dinners and lunches, and it's their right to do so. But they'll do that with the big guys. And of course, these are the big people ordering comics. These are a big part of your ecosystem. And they talk about, hey, we need to protect, your customers from Amazon and some of these big retailers. So let's encourage these customers to go to the big guys. And the reality is Marvel in particular, well, no, both big publishers, DC is certainly not innocent of it. They are looking forward to a world of consolidation where there are 8 to 10 comic store chains that are huge, that they can work with directly, that they can manage and have. And they don't really want the little guys around. They don't mind that they're there, but they're going to put their effort, whether it's marketing or comics or all the rest, they're going to put their effort into the big guys and increasingly just say, if you're a little guy, either get big and we'll care about you or don't. And that's not, people may be going, that sounds terrible. It is. That's also just, that's retail. That's how the big people work. That's why big chains make all the money and why increasingly goes that way. The challenge is comics as a collector's market really doesn't fit that model. So if you think about the shop in the future in 10 years, if it does go that way, it's going to be all very cloned. The hot topic of comic shops is what we're all in for. So get ready for that.
Well, we don't have. I mean, what's so sad now is, as far as like in my area, we don't have any small shops anymore. We have mostly mid-sized shops. I can think of one small shop that's very specialized, that they're like DC only. They only do DC. But all the rest of them gone under. I have their inventory in my shop now, because because they're calling me up and saying, I can't do this anymore. What do you give me for my stock? And
That's sad.
Yep.
And so, I guess that it's already what Marvel wanted has already happened. They've already choked out most of the small shops anyway.
Well, and it is fair. Let's, fair is fair. DC is fully on board with this strategy as well. It's not like one or the other. And I've got 2 shops that I bought. In the move, I'm going to buy another one of their inventory. Mm-hmm. And it's somewhat natural. This is how things happen with stores. But it's always disheartening, and it leaves a really ugly taste in your mouth when, as a retailer, this is going on, and the big publishers are doing things and making moves that are going to make it harder for you to compete. So when they say, and famously, one of the again, the name's spacing on me. One of their Marvel's digital guy for a while would say, if you don't like it, get bigger. Look, if you don't like it, just compete. And that sounds nice, but hey, when you are also making it easier for the big guys that are already there and adding more weight to the little guys' back, it's not exactly a fair race.
Yeah.
So, there's my take on that was, and it got them. I know who you're talking about. It really pissed Marvel off at the retailer summit. I just said that's why I switched to back issues.
Yeah.
Your new comic, your new comic incentives, your new comic pitches, and your philosophy right now doesn't work for me, and I'm just not dealing with it anymore. And the guy just kind of stared at me. He's like, that's not a option. I've already proven it with back issue sales. You at this point, you need to talk to us. You need to show us why we need to keep carrying your books, because from my perspective, if I don't like it, then I'm going to switch. I'm going to, just not order.
Yeah.
And but the problem is you've got to have that back stock. So, and that's hard. That's really, really hard to do.
You do, and the guys at the big publishers will look at that and go, they'll be offended because you're telling them an ugly truth, but they're also looking at it going, all right, fine, this is why I'm just going out to dinner with Midtown tonight, and screw you. And it's an ugly cyclone for sure.
What's interesting? If you can indulge me, Wes. What's interesting is that it's shops like that Pele and Perch have. It's the comic shop, the LCS, that saved the industry.
Oh, sure.
When the whatchamacallit, not the direct market,
the newsstand.
The newsstand. Sorry, when the newsstand was dying, the direct market came into being and picked up the slack, and eventually it picked up all the slack, and now we don't even really have a newsstand anymore. And in the old days, the newsstand sold gangbusters. If you go back in like the 50s and stuff and look at numbers, a lot of these comics sold huge numbers. But that died in the 70s, and comics were at all-time low, and it picked back up in the direct market. The 80s and 90s saw a resurgence. But now it's like they haven't learned the lesson. It's like they used to be run by guys that understood the history of comics, were probably there during that transition. And now it's run by a lot of people who don't understand, and they live in the Amazon era and the Walmart era. And they think that Midtown Comics is going to be some Walmart of comic books. Well, in the world of comic books, sure, but the world of comic books is a small pond, and they're selling when you're patting yourself on the back because you're selling 30,000 issues of a comic book, you're doing something wrong. And that's the industry that they're currently supporting, where it's like, let's have big companies selling comics. No, the reason why comics sold in the direct market is because you could go into a shop like Pele's, talk to the owner, talk to other comic fans. You had a personal experience. There's a reason why, like when you go into a coffee shop, it's not a gigantic thing. Some businesses are intimate, small affairs, and if they don't stay that way, they won't work. Yeah. You can't replace comics. Comics can't transition to Amazon. I mean, some people
Starbucks.
Some people will inevitably buy comics off Amazon, but not in the same way. It'll be a very small niche thing of people who are like, I like this thing, but it won't be like all of a sudden gangbusters, people just all around going, I can buy comics on Amazon, and it's not.
No,
it's a see and buy thing. It's I buy this comic because I talked to Pele and he said I should check it out, and he was really enthusiastic about it, and that enthusiasm, what transitioned over to me. And now I like it, so I'm talking about it. And then I said, hey, Perch, have you heard about this comic? And Perch is like, man, Ash's excitement is really making me want to check this out. That's what sells comics. And they're losing that. And the industry is not paying attention to how to foster that anymore. And that's a big problem. Sorry.
Well, by the way,
We're going to move on to the next topic. I know, Doc, you've been having some mic problems. Did you want to weigh in before we move on to the next topic about the variant schemes and their effects on the industry?
Well, I was more interested in talking about the large retailers, and I know that they want to go more towards like the Amazon market. I mean, that's where they see it. They look at it as, well, the only thing we need to sell to is Amazon. You know, if Barnes and Noble still exists, and Scholastic and libraries, except for those are one-time purchases. At least for like libraries, for Scholastic, you know, it doesn't really work. Have anybody ever actually tried buying a comic, like an individual floppy comic, on Amazon? It's fucking terrible. Just the interface itself to find the comic that you want to buy is a nightmare. So no.
And also, what's worse about that is you find the comic that you want off Amazon, and I did this. You find the comic you want to buy off Amazon, you get it in a floppy mailer, just a bulk manila envelope mailer, no bag, no board. They put a label on it and ship it to you, and it arrives and it looks like somebody wiped their ass with it. So, yeah.
Wow, it's not a cash grab.
It's not a system made for comics. It's a system made for books and your random sundry household items. That's what it's for. It's not designed for a collectible market, and it's never going to work for a collectible market. They'd have to rebuild the entire interface from the ground up just to work for comics in a reasonable manner. And you'd have to have a section that's cut off that for new comics, individuals can't post them because you end up with 3,000 listings for, you know, Iceman number 6. And then half of them aren't even issue number 6. It's because the word 6 was in the guy's description. No, it doesn't fucking work. You need to rebuild the entire interface. Amazon cannot do that.
Okay,
and they're not going to.
All right, so let's get back onto the CB Cebulski legacy portion of it. So we've talked about the fake milestones, the pricing, the variant schemes. The next issue I want to talk about, and we talked about a little bit at the beginning, is Cebulski's ability to market and hype events or books and things like that. He's really awkward. When you follow him on Twitter, it's mostly about food and stuff like that, but every once in a while he'll talk about cat variants, and everyone makes fun of him. Or then he starts talking about what was it? This is we haven't sold 1 million copies in 5 years. Think I got just the idea, and then 5 days later he announces a milestone issue, and everyone makes fun of him. And then he's going to count down to the biggest SpiderMan announcement ever, going to make the whole industry jaws drop. Then he announced SpiderMan nepotism, starring J.J. Abrams. So, Teddy, I know you follow this stuff. What's your reactions to CB Cebulski on social media and his ability to generate enthusiasm and excitement for the company and the industry in general?
Oh yeah, I follow it, and I think that whole that marketing scheme I did with the countdown with SpiderMan 4. I got bullshit. I knew that was not SpiderMan 4 because my dad was in SpiderMan comic form. That felt off. But then kind of 3, he said, okay, that's SpiderMan 4. Then it's going to be not 4. Then I went to 2 and to 1. Oh, sorry, we got to keep me. Gotcha. Yeah, I did the bench cover scene, but I'm not going to talk about it. But we got to move up on that. But I'd force that countdown. Yeah, that countdown would create a lie. And I think people were pissed about that. And part of me says, well, shit, that sucks. One part is saying, I think I know. That hype thing's on complete a lie about odd. And when I did it, Aaron, I was excited. I've seen I know. Wait, is this get back to main continuity or is it gonna be its own separate thing? I felt confused. I'm hoping J.J. Abrams' son don't know what he's doing. So you got everybody hyped for nothing, and people were pissed. And well, I don't blame them. But since I know why hype out a big SpiderMan thing, it's not gonna be a thing that people want. Like say, I don't know, undo one more day. But that's a different time another day. I do know social media stuff. I got read about Christian hyping all this stuff up just for nothing. It's just very shitty and that's very not criminal, but very well messed up from a marketing standpoint.
Yeah, eventually you start tuning it out. You're like, why would I pay attention to this? And I know, Pele, you said that, your shop, you had a whiteboard and you had, 8 different options that people could throw their opinion on what the big announcement was going to be. It did generate some enthusiasm. It did generate some interest, in what was the big announcement going to be. And then when the announcement came, it just took the air out of the room, right?
Yeah, it was interesting about that. I'll touch on that again. We had a pool going on with prizes that if different selections, what you could choose, what the big announcement was going to be, and we had all these. We had I think it was 62 people that joined the pool, and they tried to guess what the announcement was going to be. Of course, it was the bullshit thing about J.J. Abrams' kid getting involved. But ultimately what I had to do was we just did a random drawing, of all the people who joined the pool. But he's floundering. He doesn't know what the hell he's doing. He has no idea what to do next, and it shows. And I really don't understand why he's still there. The only thing I can figure is that he's got nudes of somebody's wife or something like that. He's using his blackmail because the guy is the level of incompetence is just staggering at this point. And you're going to say something, Doc?
Yeah. Well, see, here's the thing. I think that I'm still of the opinion that the man has virtually zero authority. I mean, first of all, he is a terrible hype man. If we're going to go back to, who were decent hype men in the past for Marvel, as much as Joe Quesada was a jackass, he was a pretty good carnival barker for the company. And most of the things that he had a decent feeling of where the pulse was on what would generate sales, and that most of his announcements did not go over like a fart in an elevator. But that's how. So I don't think that CB has a lot of, I don't think he's a very good hype man to begin with. I don't think he has a good idea of. I think I'm still of the opinion that he doesn't have any authority, and that it's really pretty much Sana Amanat running that company right now. And they're just not giving her the title because they don't want her to get the blame for it not working.
Why? Why would they give her the title?
Why? Because she's connected with execs from low-level execs from Disney. That's why. They've protected that woman since the minute she got to that company, and she has no business being in the comic business, but she is, so we're stuck with her.
By her own admission, we should add.
Yes, by her own admission. And the thing is, I'm pretty sure that I think CB has probably had a number of good ideas of what to do, and basically gotten fucking vetoed on it. Between Joe Quesada, Sana Amanat, Tom Brevoort, they've all basically taken all of the authority that editor-in-chief position ever had, and they, if CB comes up with a decent idea and it deviates too much from what they've been trying to do for the past 7 years, they just straight veto it. He's getting through what he can get through, but they all suck. All the ideas that they can get through suck because the ones that people actually want, the ones that people have asked for, have just gotten ignored.
Yeah, I mean, having met the guy, I think people, especially on Twitter, gave him way too much credit of being I don't think the great ideas are there, to be honest. I think he was a decent editor. I think he's a good talent scout. I think he's there for a reason. His most notable personality, or the thing that people like, is his personality. It's cheerful. He plays well in front of others. He does good interviews. He's always been that guy, and he's been seen as a really good ambassador. So the Marvel put him in that role because they wanted a good ambassador. They didn't want somebody coming in to make changes or big line decisions. Those were being done more by committee through Quesada or Amanat or others. I mean, even. Yeah, I mean, the Quesada and Amanat are playing the game of let's be Disney execs. And frankly, if all of us were in that role, we might be playing the same game. It's a $1 million role. That's the game, and it's a committee company, and DC is definitely in that same realm, especially with the acquisition. They're going to become much more of a committee company. They put CB in that role to be a happy, smiling face. And he largely is. The challenge with him is, like we said, he's very awkward in hype and promotions. He does not know how to do it well. I'm sure he's being coached. Disney does this with executives. They'll put people through classes and they'll get coaches to help bring them up. And it feels very marketing 101 like at times. And I think that's where it's at. Unfortunately, I think a lot of people online are like, oh, here's a guy. They kind of bought into why he was hired. He's friendly and he's cheerful and he's got ideas. So he's going to come in and completely change the company. I remember videos being made of people when he was announced of like, now Marvel's going to 100% change and he's going to fix everything. And it's like, that was never going to happen. But anyway, my opinion.
So he's a puppet. Like
I don't understand. Yeah, I don't understand Santa Amanat being where she is. I mean, didn't she like get coffee or something like that, or at one comic company, and then Marvel said, "Oh, come on in, and you're going to be our diversity hire."
She was the editor at a small upstart company that closed in 2 years. Yeah. They immediately hired her,
and she
something stupid like that.
Yeah,
disconnected.
She's a poli-sci and sociology major that has virtually zero history in comics. That's like. I think that's like hiring your mechanic to run an art gallery. It's pointless.
That's pointless.
Well, what is one guy on Twitter said that she must have the strongest knee pads in all of comics because I mean, honestly, I don't see that she's done anything.
Well, that's not like she wasn't hired because she had good knee pads. She was hired because they wanted a woman in a powerful position and a woman of color, likely, so they could say, look at this powerful executive that we have that we're promoting.
And they wanted a woman that shared their very far progressive beliefs of a lot of the Disney execs.
Yeah.
Well, and she...
Well, as what Disney's seeing right now, though, that, the progressive agenda is not working. Look at what's happening as far as Star Wars. I mean, Disneyland right now, apparently you can just walk in and ride anything you want without a line, practically.
Because Star Wars is where everyone's at.
No. It's not as bad. I mean, it's not as bad as that. I mean, and unfortunately, look, I think, keep in mind, I'm a guy here who does not like a lot of these books. I do not like the direction or these things going on, but why they keep happening is because the message that gets sent to Disney is they're making just crap loads of money right now, and people get focused on Star Wars didn't do as well. Meanwhile, Avengers is about to become the #1 movie of all time. It's making billions of dollars. China's doing really well in Shanghai now, and it's just they're succeeding year after year. Their numbers are going up and not down, and people get focused on kind of these one little elements. And again, I'm speaking with love. I'm speaking as a guy who do not like these changes that are being made. But they're never going to change if the feedback they get back is, hey, best year ever, which is what they keep getting. So it's tough. I do think the bottom drops at some point. I do think this stuff catches up with them. But right now, the tricks are working. and the business is largely working, and it's, you know, if you're Quesada and somebody comes up to you, and by the way, nobody will, and say, hey, how come Marvel Comics aren't selling, you know, 150,000 copies? Why are you down to 20 and 30? First of all, nobody cares. But Quesada's answer would be, hey, our products just got you a you know, almost $3 billion movie, and then everybody does some cocaine and they have a good time. Yeah.
All right. So, Ash, what are your thoughts on CB's abilities in marketing and hyping? Were you excited about his countdown for Spider-Man?
You know what? Honestly, I kind of slept through that countdown to Spider-Man because I saw the 4, and I was like, "What's this for?" Oh, someone's mentioning about Sam Raimi's script. Oh, that'd be kind of cool if they pulled that off. And I just kind of went on because nothing at Marvel excites me. So whatever I see, I'm just like, oh, that'll be kind of neat if they pull that off. That's like the level that I get because of the history of that they've shown. You know, we talked at the beginning, and unfortunately I missed it because of my technical issues about this whole X-Men deal. And it's all about like, well, yeah, this would have been something to get excited about 3 years ago, but since you burned us once, twice, 3 times, now it's just like, oh, it's another gimmick. CB, I think I echo the same thoughts. I think it was Doc that was saying that it just doesn't have any real power. I feel like CB was hired to be a face man. I feel like he was hired to be the anti-Axel Alonso. You know, Axel Alonso did a lot of horrible decisions, but he also was like really terrible as far as like a face man. It was like,
yeah,
you're making bad decisions and you're not likable. You know, like, so CB is like, hey, look at me, I'm doing all these cool things with cats, and we're like, it's stupid, but yeah, but I'm a nice guy. And so we just kind of like make fun of him, but we don't hate him. And so I think Marvel's kind of like, that's good, that's a win.
Yeah,
they just mock him and so forth, but they don't think ill will of him, then they just can chalk it up to incompetence. That's the thing I think is the illusion that Disney and these bigger companies they want to do is never let you see behind the curtain that this is all by design.
Yep.
Because once you realize that, then you might take your dollars elsewhere. You know. Once you
people
realize
are already taking their dollars elsewhere.
Sure,
you know, that's the reason why they haven't. The reason why we haven't seen Brie Larson, just full Brie Larson, is because they're paying attention. As far as, in some respects, I think that they're actually paying more attention now. They're still trying to push their agenda while kind of tiptoeing around, because I don't see her in very much of anything now. And they realize just how horribly disliked she is by the general public. And they're, you know, and they're kind of just trying to tiptoe around her. And I just don't, there's no other way to put it, but they're trying to push the agenda while not destroying, you know, the legacy that Marvel has. And
Captain Marvel still made $1 billion.
Yeah.
Because as a bookend, you know, between 2 Avengers bookends, it should have, you know, it should have done better. It should have done even more, you know. And
well, I mean, $1 billion. Man.
I don't know about that. I think
it's one of the top 10.
Oh, of course it should have. I mean, the domestic sales on it. The domestic sales on it were horrible for the placement of the movie.
No, but it domestic sales in terms of other first movies and people. I mean, Ant-Man and the Wasp did nowhere close to that, and it was also bookend between those films. I mean, I'm not. You know, Brie Larson. So that at the end of the day, Disney and big media companies dislike immensely people they can't control. That's the biggest reason Axel went away, is because he, you know, for all the stuff with comics, he was not liked by Disney. He would go out and say comments that were off script, and he had big notable feuds with a couple of executives. That's why he's gone. CB is far more controllable, far nicer. And to your point, I do think that Larson, the biggest issue with her is, they want to be able to send somebody out and do interviews and do press junkets and not worry about some kind of crazy comment coming out that they're going to have to clean up. And unfortunately, she does prove that she shoots from the hip from time to time, and that ultimately is what's going to sink her more than anything at the company. But it's $1 billion. So Captain Marvel 2 will make that, and probably some more. I guarantee.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
I'm skeptical.
I'll take you. I'll put if you wanna
Friendly
put
bet.
some money on that.
Mhm.
I'll make a bet on that. That's
Friendly
fine.
Yeah.
I think it'll be lucky if it breaks 700.
Yeah.
Lucky if it breaks 700, 600 to 700, because it was just such an absolute dumpster fire as far as the customer reactions, as far as viewer reactions, reviews. You had Rotten Tomatoes. You had Rotten Tomatoes going out and running interference just to keep the getting overflowed with negative feedback regarding the film.
But we have to keep in mind too that what we see oftentimes is in a smaller circle. When I saw Captain Marvel, 3 weeks into its release. My buddy wanted to see it. He took his kids. He's like, "You want to go?" I was like, "All right." 3 weeks it had already been out. We went and saw it. It was about a half full theater. When that movie ended, people cheered. I was amazed.
Well, see, I didn't. Then you were in a very unique place, because the place I saw it, I saw very upset people. The opening weekend, and people were going boo, and the theater was half full on opening weekend. So,
well, California and Tennessee are very different demographics.
They are.
Yeah.
The illustration, the point I was trying to make is that we sit around hardcore comic fans. It's not the same as the normie world out there. And my buddy that I went and saw with is a very normie guy, and he loved the film. The people I see that are outside of my circle loved, they don't see it the same way we do, and that's what Disney is catering to. I agree. I'm not arguing against you.
I think
I'm not
that your
saying,
region is. I think our regions are just very different then, because all I heard was this sucked.
Well, sure.
So and the movie was pulled. The movie was pulled within 3
said
weeks.
It sucked.
Where you're talking about going and seeing it 3 weeks after the release, the movie had already left 3 weeks over here.
It's regional. Regional makes a big difference. But keep in mind, I mean, the reason why I make that prediction, it's not just kind of crazy town. It's a look at the international numbers. We saw domestically a rise through the whole phase 1, 2, and 3, and and definitely strong numbers internationally. But we saw this rise in the numbers. Now, I do predict that in the next films coming up, you're going to see softening domestically. I do think people are worn out, and I think they don't have the same star power, and a lot of reasons. I think you will see a decline domestically. But internationally, I think we're just at the beginning of a pretty large bump, and you're seeing it with the more recent movies. And if you looked at how Captain Marvel tracked week after week, that film was really liked internationally. And I'm talking markets like India and China and places like that. That's where it's going to get carried now for the next couple films. And that's why
they also didn't get the same cuts of the film. They also didn't get the same cuts of the film we did. The
True.
For Captain Marvel, they actually cut out almost all of the feminist type of angle from the film, pitching it in China.
Yeah, it had cuts. I mean, it didn't play that much different. I mean, at the end of the day, she's still her. But I saw the film on a plane that over to Japan. That was an international cut, and they definitely did make cuts. But I mean, it's going to grow internationally, and a lot of the money is going to come from there. And I think we have about another 10 years, 12 years of that boom hitting, where it's going to drive from there. And by the way, Disney is thrilled. That's 100% what they want to have happen, and they're more than comfortable to have domestic revenue decline somewhat if the international is growing. That's just their
fine. And international can have what they want. International can have what they want.
All right, guys. So I want to get us back on topic. We're talking about CB Cebulski's legacy of Marvel. No, it's fine. We always go off a little bit, but I'm the guy that's got to get us back on track. All right, so the last topic we're gonna cover here about Marvel and CB Cebulski before we'll wrap it up and then head over to the Comicsgate stuff. Is the constant reboots. I remember Doc saying every series at Marvel is a mini or maxi these days because everything is rebooted constantly, and we're constantly being inundated with number ones, reboots. I think Captain Marvel has had 5 number ones since CB's time as the EIC. He's only been there for 2 years. we're constantly getting these events, and it just always constant. Doctor, what's your thoughts on all the reboots and in your position that while they haven't announced it, everything's a mini or maxi series these days?
Well, I mean, for all intents and purposes, they are. You can't argue to me that the only ongoing that they've had is SpiderMan, Deadpool, the Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, and Star Wars, basically, yeah. Because even the other Star Wars books are essentially miniseries. The Conan books are miniseries. How many Captain Marvel, Avengers, Thor, Iron Man, Captain America, X-Men reboots, Spider-Man reboots do you need before you can just show, look, these aren't actually ongoing series? I mean, hell, at this point, that weekly Avengers, not the first one that brought back Immortal Hulk, but the one that just happened. What was it? No Way Home?
Yeah, No Way Home. No Way Home.
Yeah, okay. No Way Home. One was, even that it's a maxi series, and it has the legacy numbering on it. It got considered part of the legacy numbering, which proves that they're even considering maxi series part of legacy numbering. So they don't have ongoing series. They can count up the total number of issues so that they can slap a milestone on it and charge you $15, but they're not going to actually have an ongoing. So no, there is no ongoings at Marvel. It's miniseries, maxi series, and the occasional run that would go for a couple of years, but it's going to get rebooted. The stuff that used to be the titles that used to be considered middling success are now the ones that look like ongoings. Like when Brian Reed's Miss Marvel was at 40, 50, 60 issues, whatever the hell that ended up at, when Slot She-Hulk went for a while, those were considered middling successes of only getting 40, 50, 60 issues. And that was a middling success for decades. Now that's considered an ongoing, but the ones that actually get relatively high sales numbers get rebooted as mini-series and maxi series every 6 to 18 months, basically.
Something like that.
All right, Tevye, what are your thoughts on the constant reboots and events from Marvel Comics these days?
Constant reboot events. Yeah, I mean, Marvel doesn't have an event problem because they keep doing way too many events. But I think ever since Cebulski got banned, I think the events have stopped being consistent over and over and over and over. Like when a massive event, there was a good event again in time to every single book. Or in fact, we reached some of the titles, but not all of them. And I wrote one with an epic story. That was a great build of a 5-year epic. That being said, though, after them doing constant reboots over and over and over and over, that drew me nuts when they kept doing that, like overall, it drew me insane. But at the same time, though, I'm actually fine with them not doing event over and over. They're gonna have event ever since I know. If they do another event every single year, like
there's going to be 4 events this year. What are you talking about?
Oh yeah, there's
Age of X-Men,
Age of X-Men,
there was that Spider-Verse thing at the beginning of the year.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that Spider-Man. I ignored that because I just whatever. Actually, Carnage, I don't really care about that time. Age of X-Men was like a pretty cash grab. Like, what the hell was that crap? Like, what? Oh my brain! What that garbage? Age of X-Men was a pretty mess. Like, why don't I get in my Age of X-Men? I'll get in my Age of X-Men. Boy, like, well, I think it was a good event. Carnage, we'll see how that turns out. It'll be good, it'll be bad. We'll see. And for the reboots, I don't know how many movies they did in the past 5 years. Maybe they stopped finally. But we'll see. Fresh Start might have been good.
Well, the point is that they're not really ongoing series.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Ash, what did you know? You don't even read Marvel at this point, but you were getting kind of excited. You got into the Spider-Man life story. You've been reading Daredevil. You're getting hyped about that, and you're starting to maybe dip your toe back into Marvel. Do all these constant reboots and events, does it turn you off to wanting to go full back into Marvel?
Very, very much so. I believe that comics do something that no other medium can achieve, and that is the long story, the unending story. TV shows, that last several seasons. If you're lucky, you sometimes you get a TV show that'll run like The Simpsons runs for decades, but that's not really a continuous drama anyway, so it doesn't count. If you get a dramatic television, if it goes 8 seasons, you're like, wow, that was a long run of a show. And then it goes away and it goes down the memory hole and we move on to something new. But comics are things that you collect. You grow up as a kid. Maybe your dad passes down to you. He's like, man, this is something I collected. Then you grow up and you pass down to your kids and you see this generational, these stories is going for decades and decades. And you can go back into the back issues if you joined in comics today and see just the history of these characters. Oh, you like Superman? There's 80 years of them. Have fun. There's going to be 80 years of Superman in the future. It's this eternal sort of timeline of a story that no one else can achieve. And instead of focusing on that and saying, let's double down, let's bank on this, this is our strength that no one else can do, we see an industry going, let's copy TV. Well, the problem is I can turn on my TV and I can watch an episode of whatever my favorite show is for virtually free. Okay, sure, I pay a Netflix charge, but that charge is already paid. Any show I want to watch is no extra charge. But if I want to read X-Men, I got to cough over my $4.95.99, whatever the new price is for these books, for each issue, which gives me about 15 minutes of entertainment. The industry needs to remember this and needs to focus on this. I don't want to buy, let's say this. I'll use the X-Men as an example. How many? I think it's 5-issue series. There's 2 different series, so that's 10 issues at $6. I'll have to pay $60 to invest to get this story.
That's insane. I mean, that's like nuts.
So if it were an ongoing comic, I've already bought in on that, right? As an X-Men fan, I collected solid through the whole Chris Claremont era, because not only was I getting this eternal story that was part of my life or whatever, but it was also a collection. I was a collector. So when I paid my X amount of dollars per issue every month, I was getting something of an intrinsic value that it had emotional value. It went in my collection and I prized it. And it also had intrinsic value in the sense that, hey, if I need to, I could dump this on eBay and get cash out. Or I could go to a comic store and say, will you buy my collection? They'll give me a fraction of what it's worth, but I'll get something back. But when you're asking, these miniseries, most of the time are not collectible because they're not really attached to anything. And then when they get rebooted or move on to something else, the fact that they're not attached to something makes the collectors not care. So it just floats into this ether of dollar bin books. And so I go in knowing that, and I'm like, well, so now these have less intrinsic value on top of the fact that the story's going to end. There's so many other comics asking for my money. Do I buy Hawkman or do I buy this new comic that's going to probably get canceled in less than a year?
So it doesn't matter. The whole point would be like cash grabs.
Well, there's the cash grab is one problem, but even if it's not a cash grab, there's no committal. If you don't care about your comic, if you're not committed to it, why should I be committed to it?
Good question.
That's the thing. Like if it doesn't matter to the story, it won't matter to the collector and it won't have value later. So they're all three of those things are connected. So whenever you don't have, I mean, like, you know, Perch, what do you think? I've always considered comics kind of like they're a soap opera with an unlimited budget that never has to worry about its actors or actresses aging out.
Yeah, I think that's well said. I mean, there's a reason why wrestling and comics, there's so many fans of both. And it's because it's this continual story. And when Cebulski first came on, he did this interview where he said, we're very honored to be, you know, writers and carriers of this eternal story. And that's a good sentiment. It hasn't panned out that way, but it's a good idea. At the end of the day, I think, you know, you got to pick a model and you got to go with it. You can't have all of them simultaneously. Comics wants to be Netflix. It wants to have that model where they can do seasons and they can do all the rest. And okay, you can do that. I think TKO is kind of trying that, and that kind of works for them. But you can't have that and have $4.99 issues and have a monthly comic you're going to distribute through a terrible distributor that doesn't know what they're doing, and you know, have a, you know, antiquated model of producing those comics. You can't do all those things simultaneously. It just makes a mess. And, you know, the Netflix example Ash brought is a great one because, you know, for under $20, you're getting as much, you're getting all the content you can take. Well, that's, you know, that's 4 comics, maybe 5 comics if you're lucky. And that you're done in an hour. That's not the same. By any stretch of the imagination, that's not the same. So if you're going to do this seasonal approach of, you know, canceling comics and rebooting them and doing them by seasons and all the rest, you want to mimic Netflix. Well, okay, you're going to also have to mimic Netflix pricing, which is a fraction of what you're currently doing. And the reality, there's just not enough money. There's not enough people who want to read comics to justify Netflix pricing, and you put all the stores out of business. So you got to pick, but you can't have all at once.
Very, very good point. Pele, you know, what are your thoughts, you know, as a retailer yourself on the constant reboots and the events that seem to come out of nowhere? They don't feel special anymore, you know, from my perspective.
Yeah.
Well, I think that in large part, the ongoing series is dead right now. And if you want an ongoing series, you're going to go buy back issues. We don't. I think a lot of it has to do with the current generation's attention span, perhaps being very short. But also, you know, they're just trying to front load as much profit as they can. And you know, the relaunches are more money. You know, number ones are more money. You know, milestone issues are more money. So they're going to do anything they can to, you know, to front load it as much as possible. And that means that ongoing series, you know, cost extra. They're not, you know, they're not especially profitable as far as, you know, in large, you know, in large batches. So we're just not going to see them. I don't know if that means that the current comic book industry as we know it is going to just, you know, I won't say die, but you know, at some point it's going to implode, and what few readers there are left are just going to say they've had enough. And you know, it's just it just shows that the sheer incompetence at the top. You know, they don't understand the comic book industry. They're trying to run it like a
business,
you know, like a TV network. You know, they're trying to run it like a TV network. They're trying to run it as another form of entertainment, and that's not what comic books are. And they don't understand what comic books are, and they're trying to run it like the movie business. And it's just not, it's not going to work. So
they may be doing
you know,
that.
where
So
people are just going to have to
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say they may be doing that so that they can demonstrate that whenever the comic business does collapse, they can go over to the Hollywood side, because that's where they all where most of them want to be anyway.
Sure.
Yep.
So
I agree.
If they can demonstrate, hey, we can run comics like we do, like you guys do TV shows, then you should hire us to come and work to do your TV shows.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you one thing: the only reason why you're seeing any form of success as far as DC is concerned in comics, and still having some bit of, you know, rationality to them, is because the DCU sucks balls and is absolutely horrible, and because they failed so utterly and fallen on their face so badly that, you know, they don't have the movies and stuff like that to point to and say there's our success. So, you know, they've had to kind of hold on to the more traditional aspects of comics and try to make the ongoing series work, because, you know, they don't have anything to front load.
All right, so I think we've almost, you know, covered, you know, CB Cebulski's legacy. We covered all the stuff that's in my video. If you want to see all my my views on it, go check it out. I just released it yesterday. Does anyone have does everyone have one last thing they want to say about Cebulski and his legacy at Marvel so far? Okay, shoot.
Yeah, my thought about Cebulski as a whole as legacy, as far as you're concerned, I think looking at my man, for all the good and the bad, despite the bad apples, I think it's been okay with legacy as a whole. Now, am I saying everything is perfect? No. Age of X-Men with the prize down there, because what the point of Age of X-Men? I keep saying over and over. No one really Age of X-Men, the point of the event. But despite that setback, I think he's doing an okay job. After the bad apples, well, I tried to get rid of him, but we just still some power. So, for all the good and bad, he's doing an okay job. But I'm just going to look for the positive, not the negative. And hope more would fix themselves ASAP, but we'll see.
All right. Does anyone else have anything they want to say before we get into the Comicsgate stuff a little bit?
Yeah, real quick. I think we touched on all the big points of CB Cebulski. I just want to say one thing. I think Marvel Comics today, July 6th, whatever it is better than the day Axel Alonso stepped down. So I don't think CB Cebulski is a great editor. I think we all hit the points that his problems and his failings. But at least I always believe in giving credit where credit's due. CB Cebulski did a couple of good things.
Yep, I'll agree with that.
Yep.
They got some really good books out right now, and he has calmed some of the antics online and social media and things of that nature. But he definitely has some work to do if he wants to leave a good legacy. So I think we're going to say that wraps up the CB Cebulski Marvel Legacy portion of the stream. So I think it's interesting that you brought up pro wrestling, Perch. You know, I don't know if everyone knows this. I'm a huge pro wrestling fan. I grew up watching wrestling every Saturday and Sunday. You know, WCW. Well, I guess it was NWA then. You know, WWF, and then I believe I even watched Glow. You know, so as I got older, you know, it kind of became embarrassing. Because it was kind of what's up?
Do you remember Wildcat? Do you remember Wildcat Wendell Cooley?
Oh,
that sounds
Wildcat
like
Wendell Cooley.
No,
Continental Wrestling.
never heard of him.
You're not a real fan unless you remember the Southern Continental Wrestling.
I don't think that show was in Missouri.
Yeah, I know what that show.
Hey,
No,
come on, guys! I've got an anecdote here.
Well,
Go ahead.
All right.
Go ahead.
So, you know, as I got older, you know, it's kind of geared towards children, especially WWF. It's kind of embarrassing to admit you're a wrestling fan. And all of a sudden in the late 90s and the early 2000s, it got cool again. And you could, you know, kind of tell everybody, it's like, hey, you know, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, you know, Bill Goldberg, you know, Chris Jericho. You know, wrestling was cool. And it was something you could talk about. But, you know, a few years later, you know, I'm still watching the show. And one day I'm watching, you know, I'm watching WWF, and there's this wrestler named Triple H, and he's got like a mask of another wrestler on, and he's mounted like a plastic woman inside a coffin. He's acting like he's banging a corpse. I'm sitting there watching this, and I'm like, this would be so embarrassing if anyone I knew walked in on me right now. If I had to explain to them what I'm watching right now. And that's what Comicsgate feels like to me at this moment. You know,
Oh my God.
if my brother came over to me and was like, "Hey man, what are you looking at on Twitter?" and I was like, "Well, there's a little war in Comicsgate. The cherries are battling the Wars campaign, and Nasu Rabadi just switched sides, but EVS is throwing it on him." My brother would look at me like I was a moron. It feels like I'm talking about a lame-ass version of West Side Story that's somehow lamer because it doesn't have song and dance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually a pretty
Ejection.
good analogy.
Drop the
Yeah.
mic, man. Just
Indeed.
drop it. That's if you're comparing the Kane necrophilia angle at this point, it's
Oh.
spot on. Drop the mic. You've done it. Like literally.
But that's what it feels like being a part of this anymore. You know, I don't use the hashtag anymore. I don't even really get into it much. I might like some stuff here and there, but it's so boring. It's not interesting. It's embarrassing to admit that I'm even a part of it. Ash,
Yeah.
I know you keep track on all these things. You even talk about Comicsgate, where you did at one point a lot on your channel. What are your thoughts on Comicsgate and this ongoing civil war right now between War Campaign and the Cherries, and people switching sides?
I don't know if I can sum it up any better than you just did, man. That was beautiful. If I could give you a round of applause right now, I would.
Yeah.
I don't actually follow the whole debacle. I don't know if it's a better word to call that. I'm around. I'm on Twitter. I'm a big believer and supporter of Comicsgate. The whole reason I'm into comics today is because of Comicsgate. And so for me, it's very difficult to just say I'm walking away or whatever. Like it's part of my comics legacy of the current state of things when I came back from my hiatus. But it's the Comicsgate that we know today, that we talk about, this war of the cherries and the war campaign and all this. That's not Comicsgate. They took the name and they ran off with it and they turned it into something else. It's like if you're a coffee person, there's a coffee company called Chock full of Nuts. Like they started off as a nut company and they couldn't make any money, so then they went and sold coffee. But that's why that's what Comicsgate kind of is. It's chock full of nuts, and in multiple ways. The play on words is intentional. It's really kind of, God, Wes, you just said it so perfectly about like the embarrassment of people walking in and being like, "What's this all about?" I would try to do some research to figure out what exactly is going on with the cherries and all this stuff, and I couldn't make heads or tails of it. I am friendly with Ethan Van Sciver. I'm not like, he's not like in my phone list or anything. We don't hang out on Fridays, but we talk, occasionally and have some conversations. And I don't always agree with them, and he doesn't always agree with me, but we've always maintained a friendly, respectful relationship. So I've maintained respect for him. And there's been times I've talked to him, like, what the fuck is going on with these guys? And he'll occasionally be like, I know. And I think he's, if we're I'm bringing him in the picture here, but this thing is just spun out of control for anybody. I don't think anybody at this point can control it anymore, and it's just drama for drama's sake. And I think that's what people are getting into. And I think all the smart eggs just sort of like, if you see that meme where it's like Homer Simpson backing into the bushes, that's what I think that's what most smart eggs of Comicsgate have just kind of done at this point. Just kind of like, okay. And everything that's left is just like the weirdo drama thing. And there's some people who have money tied into it, right? There's some people who are making comics and they're financially tied into this audience, if you will. And so now they are in a weird position, because what do? Do you alienate them? Do you tell them, dude, you guys are a bunch of F-wits? Like, you can't, then all of a sudden you're not making any money. So you kind of
have to support them.
You continue your clown show and you do your happy song and dance. They continue to buy your books. They rant and rave. Other fans get pissed off. And here's what we have.
Yeah. comics here as a whole has been. Oh, sorry.
No, I was about to throw it to you. I know you don't seem like you've taken any sides. You're just a comic book lover. What have you seen, and what are your thoughts on Comicsgate? Have you?
Honestly, the whole comics game, I mean, just complete a clusterfuck of a group of people trying to fight wars. Like, I don't pick sides. I don't want to be part of comics. It's completely a mess right now. And holy shit, the whole anti stuff that's happening over that thing over now, it's freaking nuts. Like, you're going against creators against Civil War, creators going against comics. Like, what the hell is going on? Like, I felt confused about law, and I just couldn't take it anymore. I walked away from comic game a long time ago. I just avoided it. Like, okay, this isn't real political anyway, and let's say drama. So walk away. Well, walk away. And I stay forward from that, but that's the part because I don't want to be part of that situation. And but for what I heard from you guys, Jesus Christ, that seems like a civil war. And it's like corrupting in itself. Like, what happened to the positive change that they promised during the good old days, but now it's just been corrupted from the inside out and just been twisted into a different mess, and it could be a mess.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's why I avoid topics like that, because I can't deal with it. I can't deal with drama. I know even Skyver is a book comics gate. That's cool. I'm glad he's part of it. If he control that situation, but at the same time, though, that subsection is run by morons, run by people who don't know what the hell they're doing. They took the message and they twisted it into their own twisted message, which is sad because earlier it was supporting change, but now it's just been a career war in itself. Like, it's a nightmare. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I know who to root for. I can't root for anyone, so I just avoid it.
So, I mean, I have to acknowledge something. Doc is my co-host here on the show, but you had a pretty high-profile run-in, I guess, with EVS and some other war campaign kind of guys. What are your thoughts on it? Are you feeling bitter right now, or
No.
How do you feel?
I'm not bitter. Honestly, I'm not bitter at all. Ethan gave me my money back, and I don't really give a shit what he does at this point. If he wants to build his brand on a bunch of LARPing bundles of sticks, then he can. But I have no interest in, hanging out with that. I have no interest in watching that. I've said it before, you can take the Ethan out of the comics industry, but you can't take the comics industry out of the Ethan.
Yeah.
And he is who he is. He's been there for, he was in the industry for 25 years, dealing with the nonsense and engaging in the nonsense that the pros do. And pros are going to pro. That's what they do. If I have a sneaking suspicion that he's going to have a rather rude awakening for his future campaigns. I don't think they're going to be as successful because, a lot of just the kind of normie comics gators, as others, as Ash said, we all kind of like Homer Simpson meme walked into the bush, like just nope, we dipped out. And we don't want any parts of that stupid, autism nonsense. And if that's what he's going to build his brand on, then cool. Good luck to him. I don't think that customer pool is as big as the one that he had before. And I think he pushed away a lot of them by embracing the loonies. The same way that the mainstream comic industry pushed away a lot of the normie fans by embracing their Tumblrina lunatics. It's the same thing. It's the same thing, but a different side. And okay, fine, cool. That's what you want to do. Great. Best of luck to you. I don't think you're going to be able to buy another house on that one, but I don't care. Look, those guys, it's mostly a bunch of clowns they've been running purity tests on people since, well, hell, the first people that they ran a purity test on were Rags, Team Rags. You know,
Wow.
Brian and Trent and those guys they were never really Comicsgate, and they acknowledged that. They're like, look, we just want to make our zombie titty book, and you know, when they didn't drop AP as a publisher because of Mark Waid's antics with Zach, you know, Roe went after Brian and Trent and basically chased them off until they're like, you know what, fuck this, we don't want any of you. And now they had already made their audience, they're fine. You know, they've done it with Doug, they did it with Nurkish, they did it with Tim Lim, they did it with a number of other people that, you know, for like the kind of like, are they pros? Are they critics? Are they content creators? I don't know. There's a lot of like gray area in that, and that's the problem with Comicsgate. Comicsgate needs to, and always has been, always will be, a consumer movement, and pros can join on from their, you know, because they're fans too, they're consumers too, and they can agree with us as consumers, and they can market to that consumer group, but they can't become that consumer group because producers and consumers are not the same thing.
Yeah, you're right about that.
And Ethan, you know, and I don't entirely blame Ethan. I blame fucking Vox Day for his nonsense with trying to, you know, start a Comicsgate imprint that precipitated all this bullshit and put us in a position where now the pros need to actually own a trademark or a copyright or whatever the hell they did with it, so that, you know, somebody like Vox can't decide to monetize it themselves, so they had to monetize it. And for a time, people looked at it as, well, it's the lesser of two evils. But you know what? Doug Ernst and Captain Cummings were right. We were all right. You know, Anglatine and Unranked Chevron, whenever they went and did that debate with Ethan and John, guess what? I don't care what the audience thought. Unranked Chevron and Anglatine were right. It didn't need to be. It was never going to be successful, and it was always going to destroy itself if it became a producer movement.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Doc. I'm sure you're going to chime in some more, but Paley, I know you have a little bit of a different perspective. You have a different relationship with Ethan and some of this stuff. What are your thoughts on the weird cherries versus the war campaign war going on right now?
Well, Ethan used to be my friend. I don't think I know him anymore. So, he used to be somebody I used to see at cons. He used to do some artwork for me, sign my books. I've known him since early 2000s, and he's just not the same person anymore. He's a pretty cool guy, relaxed. He's kind of fun to hang out with. He was really great artist within certain areas and certain characters. Probably the best Green Lantern artist that I can think of. But he's a different person now. I think a lot of the success that he's had within Comicsgate has gone to his head. The whole Hail Caesar bullshit thing. War Council has kind of buffed him up to make him seem like he's this icon of whatever the fuck, and he's become a twat. And I hate to say that. I at one time I thought he was a pretty decent friend of mine. Now he acts like who the hell are you? So it's just the success, I think, has gone to his head. The next books that he launched, I think, is going to be it's going to be a rude awakening for him. And I'm just disappointed. I'm disappointed in what he's allowed people to do in his name. I'm disappointed that he feels that that disagreeing with him means that, that you hate comics and that you're, if you don't, if you don't agree with me, or if you disagree with me, then you hate my books, you hate my work, and he's basically made people draw lines now, and the only thing I can say is that, I wish him success in the future, but I don't really have any interest in supporting him from here on if this is going to be his attitude. And I think it's unfortunate, but he's become, in a lot of ways, he's become what he was fighting against. And I think a lot of it comes down to, even just a small amount of power. Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And just a small amount of power has corrupted his perspective of comics and what Comicsgate was about to begin with. It started out basically as pushback against the comic companies for the shady bullshit that they do, and and he's monetized it. And at first, I was for that, because I like, you do the work, you deserve to be compensated. It's July. Where's my damn cyber frog?
Oh, yeah, good question.
He said he'd be out in June. Where's my damn cyber frog, motherfucker? And I've defended him constantly, regularly, saying, okay, well, he said back in December it would be out in June, and I'm gonna hold with him until then. I'm gonna reserve judgment. Well, now I'm judging. It's July the 6th. I don't have my damn comic book. You're talking about how wonderful Cyberfrog's success was. I don't have it. Everybody except for the people that are giving him blowjobs, is without their comic books. So, fuck him. I've had it with him. He's
too far gone.
A blowhard. He's a blowhard asshole now. And, like I said, I don't know him anymore. I don't know who the guy was. I wish he'd come back. The old Ethan that I knew, this new Ethan, new house, $1 million in the bank from a comic that he's not even shipped yet, that he promised would be out in June. It's not. It's already at the publishers. It's already at the printers. It's this, it's that. That doesn't change anything. The people that are backing him have gotten him his new house. The people that backed him have given him the success that he has. And if he thinks that, being filleted by a couple dozen sycophants is worth trashing his entire professional career, then, so be it. He can go ahead and do that. But, they'll be the only ones that are going to be giving him money in the future if he continues the route he's on. And I won't be buying his next book.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. That's not exactly what I was expecting, but I guess
sad.
All these things are fluid and change.
Well,
opinions.
I was absolutely, I was defending him up until recently. And his reactions and his attitude of late and broken promises on product, no, I'm not doing it anymore. I'm not defending the bastard anymore. He's burned another bridge, and he's going to have to do some catch up work to get back at least my good graces and the good graces of a lot of the people who are backing him. So,
Yeah. So, Perch, if people don't know this, Perch is a very interesting follow on social media. He seemed at one point to be equally hated by the shill side and the comicsgate side. Like every time he said something, everyone would like jump on him and kind of dogpile him and stuff. So you have a different perspective on this. What are your thoughts on the ongoing comicsgate civil war?
Yeah, I think I'm still in that position, by the way, but I think people got tired of. I'm not that entertaining of a dogpile person, so I'm like, say what you want. I'm not going to go on and on about it. I don't give people the fight they want. Look, I mean, I've had a number of odd run-ins through the years, or through the last year and a half or so with this. I think I had one of the earliest encounters of where I think it was going to go bad, in the sense that very, very early on. Richard Meyer's book Jawbreakers, it's going to be published through AP. And kind of the rag stuff was there in the background, and that got canceled, that got interfered with, and it did get interfered with. It's true that it did, and a bunch of comic stores, and when I say a bunch, I'm saying less than 12. It's hard to tell. Made some noise in Facebook channels and other things, and I think we all know that. And probably the biggest mistake I think Meyer made, I don't know if he's ever kind of copped to this, but the biggest mistake he made was he started calling those comic shops out on his Twitter channel and putting their names there. And that gave the ammunition for a bunch of people to kind of take it to the next level. If he hadn't done that, it would have been harder, it would have been seen as more interference. I think that's probably one of the pieces that's going to hurt him in this case and everything else. But as he was identifying the comic shops, he identified mine, and it was the wrong. He put the wrong city in for the shop, and so people being people, they go online, they quickly, just Google the shop, and it was a comic shop up in Mill Creek that's now closed, which is the irony of it. That was being a real asshole about it, and doing what they do. My stance, if you don't know, if you haven't seen before, is that I don't care what you like or don't like. I'm a comic shop. I'm going to sell comics. If the comic will sell, I'll sell it. So I was planning on ordering Jawbreakers for sure. Why not? There's an interest for it. That doesn't pick any sides. But anyway, he identified the wrong shop. And then I saw this amazing dog pile in real life of people going to Yelp and just burying the shop and how dare you. And I went in your shop and I was raped, comics like that. They're just garbage comments.
Oh, so they went on like consumer apps and started giving negative reviews.
Yeah, they had talked to shop directly. And again, this wasn't, I wrote in, I'm like, hey, hey Richard, you've identified the wrong shop. And he stopped then going forward with that shop. But he never really retracted. And I'm not saying this to blame him. It was the reaction of the others. It's the reaction of the Comicsgate people that just kind of lumped in and just went nuts about it. And even when it kind of came out, hey, it was the wrong shop that got nailed here, the people were like, well, fuck shops anyway. If you really cared about this, you would stop carrying all Marvel. Just stop carrying all Marvel and DC and support Zach. It's like, what are you talking about? That makes no goddamn sense. This is a store. So that was an early taste of what was going on. Simultaneously, I was arguing with Neil Gaiman online, and then at a signing he was at, because he had some real negative comments about Comicsgate. And I was like, you know what? There's some good people there. It's not, it's a giant kind of tag, and there's a number of different personalities. There's people who care about comics, care about price, and then there's some lunatics, like always. But to say just all these people are wrong is a mistake. Unfortunately, fighting both fights at once, it's like it's not helping anybody's case.
Yeah.
Fast forward to today. Yeah, I think Pele's. Unfortunately, this is heartbreaking comments. Really, I think the point of Comicsgate that I think had the most value was that the comics industry couldn't sustain constant reboots, constant shuffling, overblown prices. It just couldn't. The comics industry couldn't sustain that. And it also couldn't sustain kind of the purity test of you either agree with the publisher people entirely, or you're harassed, excommunicated, kicked out, like Malin was, honestly. And that sure seems to have replicated completely now within the core Comicsgate movement. to the point that if you're going in, if you're a retailer or you're a creator, you're anybody, you're trying to defend certain points about it, which I think are still valid, like the pricing's out of control, everything we talked about the first half of this show, then it's hard to do that with backing Comicsgate, because you get looked at, like you described, like it's Triple H humping a coffin. That's how people look at it. Your point is blown. You can't, because you've got, cherries and war campaign and just other bullshit going on. You have kind of the biggest names calling themselves Caesar and other things. None of this helps the case of, hey, there's some real problems for shops and for readers and for comic people when you've got a bunch of people, taking up all the oxygen in the room with kind of crazy shenanigans. So it's morning.
Well, you got so many people within Comicsgate that are so black-pilled that they're just, and they're killing it. They're really killing it, because although I don't do as much business in new comics anymore, it's still a part of my business, and it doesn't help when everybody's just, burn it down, destroy this, just chill, people, calm down. And
not at all.
Anyway, sorry to cut you off.
No, you didn't. It's a conversation. I mean, it's morning, not night. If there's a night and had a nice glass of whiskey, I'd be a lot more salty on this topic. It's morning, so I'm more peaceful. I'm peaceful perch. You'll notice my tweets get more and more crazy as the night goes on, but it's bullshit now. It's not going anywhere good. Yesterday, even just pointing out the comics that were late, and people are like, well, Ethan's not late. The definition of late is, it's like, stop trying to redefine the English language. Late is late. This is not, it suddenly feels like Bill Clinton. What is the definition of is? It's like, no, it's the book is late. Now, you as a fan, if you bought it, good for you. And if you don't care, good for you. It doesn't matter, but stop trying to change the reality of what's going on. The book is late. Yeah, it's just a fact. Sorry.
Now the one thing I will say though is I don't entirely blame Ethan for his more militant stance. Between all the slings and arrows that he's had to take from the industry, from leaving it, and from your fucking Sandwich Boys and Tim Doyle's and Ren and all those other weirdos.
Yeah, those people are awful.
Yeah, they're awful.
So I can understand him being defensive. Plus the fact that, I think it really did a lot, like his time in the industry and being basically shunned to the side and considered, especially from 2016 to 2017. I think it did more damage to him emotionally and mentally than he really wants to accept. Like, the way he just kept getting shit on by every media source, every, his co-creators, his co-workers, his editors, that's got to take a fucking toll on you.
Absolutely.
So I don't blame him entirely for going a little off the reservation the other direction when he gets a bunch of people actually supporting him.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, look, we're all human, everybody, including the people that some of the Doyle, I think, passed that point a long time ago, but most people are human. I think we got to accept each other's flaws and everything else. And I'm sure it was a big blow when, folks like Johns and others, are not going to work with Ethan anymore. I mean, that's a collaborator that went a long time. So I think there's some scars there. And I've met the guy too at cons before. Generally in person, everybody is nicer, by the way, even the nut jobs. I mean, by the way, Al Ewing, amazingly friendly guy. In real life, but it is what it is. I think that the challenge that the industry has, and the challenge again, because people are people, they have good and bad traits. We were all upset years ago. Lots of people in Comicsgate were upset years ago when we saw these editors at Marvel, and they were allowing people like the writer of Moon Knight or the writer of America or some of these titles just being assholes on social media. And we asked ourselves, hey, why isn't anybody reining these people in? Why isn't anybody, stopping these guys for saying stuff like this? And, the answer back from the comic companies is, hey, they're their own people. They can say what they want. You think it's our job to tell people what to do? And so if you go to today, you see, I guess, War Campaign, some of these other people saying things in Ethan's name. And you see Ethan saying, hey, why is this my responsibility? They're their own people. It's really the same. People say, no, it's not the same thing. It's really a lot the same thing. And either he's responsible for him or he's not. I think the one thing that I think he should do more of is stop signal boosting people who are obvious troublemakers. And that goes for everybody. Don't signal boost people who are obviously out to just screw with other people, whoever they might be. Amen. But anyway.
So I did want to broach one subject about War Campaign. I actually have a couple of friends. I'm friendly with a couple of people in there. I've found personally when I interact with them on a one-on-one case, they're pretty reasonable people. And like I kind of get along with some of them. I don't try to stir up a lot of stuff, but they affect about what content I can make on the channel. Like, Doc, people don't know this. Doc is one of my good confidants. And every once in a while I'll message him. I'm like, hey, Doc, I think I'm going to do a video on this. He'll be like, that could be perceived as criticism of EVS. I don't think you can make that video.
Yeah.
And I haven't, and I'll be like, well, you're probably right. I don't want to have, be attacked, just for speaking what I feel like is innocuous truth. Like this isn't even about, Ethan or this person, but it could be perceived that way. So that's one of the reasons, I'll shout out Ash. Like he's pretty brave on it. He'll talk about whatever the fuck he wants. And say whatever he wants. And I appreciate that, but it's really, it gets delicate. And I don't like feel like I'm being censored because I don't want to be attacked by people.
Yep.
Yeah.
By the way, I'll say the same thing. I've got some people who are followers and I've interacted with who have the WC in their title, and very nice people. I mean, there's plenty of nice people all over the place, and that's kind of the argument I was having with Gaiman is of, look, there are nice people in all these different places, and this isn't like there's fine people everywhere. Yeah, as individuals, there are some nice people out there. But it is, I have the same approach. I've posted things and I've had people DM me saying, hey, you need to take that down because Ethan's going to be mad and he's going to call you soy on a channel. Like, who gives a shit? I don't give a fuck about that. Sorry. But I mean, but it is, I don't like that feeling. I don't like people telling me, hey, you got to say this or got to say that because there's a new council watching you. That's ridiculous.
Here's an interesting thing. I just want to, I don't want to try to tell anyone what opinions they should have. Obviously, everyone's got their own experiences, but I say the things that I say, and I have very little, I guess, what do you call it, like kickback. I've had some of the War Campaign guys say some shit to me or whatever, and I've had some of the guys that aren't really War Campaign. They're more of the guys that would be kind of War Campaign, but they're just the total nut jobs. And I've had them raise some shit at me, but usually a couple words and it's gone. But honestly, I've never had a problem with Ethan. I don't agree with what he says. I think he says some things that I wouldn't in his shoes, but then again, I'm not in his shoes. Like, but I've been critical of him. I said things. Now, the one thing I always try to do, however, if you notice, and Wes mentioned, my post, and he's like, wow, Ash says this or that. I never say anything disrespectful about Ethan. And if I have anything that I think can be viewed as disrespectful, I just take it straight to him. I think the problem that a lot of people, and I'm not it's not in reference to anyone on this panel, but I think other people maybe on Twitter where people run into these problems is they post these inflammatory things on Twitter. Yeah. And then the other person sees it and then they get all inflamed. And then they wonder, why is that person acting like an asshole?
Yes.
And I'm just like, well, you just said something, like, and I'm like, some of these things just, it's like, pick up a phone. Like, obviously, I don't have a phone to Ethan, but, like, I'll just DM him. If I have something that I'm like, this is going to come across really bad. I've never when I've done that, when I've just talked to him straight and been just respectful and said, look, I just don't agree with this. I'm not trying to, antagonize you. I'm not trying to, insult you, but this is my feelings. Every time I've broached this subject with him, he's always been very respectful to me. Thank you for, what you've had to say. I've never had a problem. So I'm not trying to point a finger and say, I don't understand why anyone else has a problem, because everyone's different. And plenty of people have had problems with me. I'm no saint. But I think a lot of times things get blown up because of miscommunication, because being putting in a public square, those things get amplified by other trolls who come in and misinterpret the words that you said, cut what you say, post it, retweet it, and then it starts this big flame war. And a lot of times, people who want drama, they're not interested in the truth. They want the take that's going to be, which is the most infuriating. Okay, that's how I'm going to take it, because that's all I really care about is being outraged. Not, hey, let me try to understand what he's really saying. Maybe this guy's got a point. No one really, on Twitter, very few people in the public sphere want to do that. But when you talk to him personally, you're more likely to get, and this is just with people in general, I find, you're more likely to get an honest response, or a person who will try to actually give you the benefit of the doubt and engage you on a intellectually honest fashion. So I'm starting to ramble now, but I just wanted to interject that because
I just want to add something here. Ethan has been, well, okay, I'll say that he calls himself the leader of Comicsgate. That's fine, whatever. But here's the problem, though. He burned all of his bridges with the comic news media, which is a joke anyway. CBR and comicbook.com, those places they're a joke. They suck. They're the Kotaku of comics, so it doesn't really matter. But then you have the good side of what I refer to as the good side of the comic media, bounding into comics, and even bleeding fool. And now he's started a war with them over them leveling honest criticism at him. And where's he going to? Where can he run to now? The only thing he has is his own platform. That's it. He's already now he started a war.
And his platform isn't his platform. It's Google's platform.
Yeah.
So if Google keeps going in the way that they're going, he might not have that platform.
Yep.
So what's he basically going to do now? He's got, he's pissed off everybody except for the people that are blowing him. And
he'll be okay if he draws comics, if he puts out content, it looks good. It's amazing how many sins get forgiven. I mean, Nick Spencer was absolutely hated 4 years ago. He's doing a good run on SpiderMan now. It's fine. It's just he can certainly go, and I think Ash said something really, really critical to pull out, and that's the people who are the quote unquote villains here in all this are the people who take comments, little bits and snippets of things you say, and they blow it up and they pull it out, and they deliberately are trying to get a nice fight going for their entertainment of the day. And those are, whether that's people who are paid to do it, like a Rinfamous on one side, or it's people who are just bored, like others on the Comicsgate side. There's people all over who are doing that kind of crap, and those are the people that I wish, if I had my dream, that Ethan's and the Joe Quesadas and people across the board would denounce those people. Just stop signal boosting those people who are just clearly out to divide people up and cause trouble, because they will bounce from one side to the other at a whim just for entertainment.
But you get rid of bad apples and just put the good apples in and just get rid of the bad ones.
Yeah, start signal boosting the people who want to help.
Yep, that too.
So there's like a somewhat interesting. Well, I think it's interesting. It's a short little article on Bleeding Fool right now, basically saying our NPC's taking over like Comicsgate. If you watch the video by Preston Poulter, he's the writer behind Pocket Jack Comics. it's pretty innocuous. He doesn't really say anything that inflammatory. Yes, he uses EVS's name a couple times, but he doesn't even really say anything that much. And not only is Poulter being attacked, Bleeding Fools being attacked, and it's like,
wow.
Where does this go? What he said isn't warranting this level of interest. He just gave his thoughts. So he didn't say anything personal about anybody. He didn't go out of his way to really put anybody down. He just gave his thoughts.
How dare anyone criticize your leader? That's what it always ends up coming down to. Whenever you end up with people that you see it in religion, you see it everywhere. People get into an orthodoxy, and then you can't. You have people that are critical, and you have people that are that will attack you for even the slightest criticism, and there's people that are just reasonable normie people, and that's you always end up with these splinterings.
Well, it's identitarianism, right? This is Comicsgate kind of started on this whole concept of SJWs in comics, but really the one core tenet of being an SJW is identitarianism, and many of us I think failed to recognize that identitarianism is not just limited to being an SJW. Anyone can subscribe to that, and War Campaign and other people within the so-called Comicsgate community have subscribed to that same type of thing. And when you attack or even give the perception that you are attacking or defaming something that is part of their belief, an identitarian takes that as an attack on them because they are linked. They're symbiotic. They don't sit there and go, oh, okay, you're just criticizing the thing that I love or that I'm interested in. No. If you don't like the Avengers because I love the Avengers and it's my favorite movie, that means you will say you don't like me. That's an example I'm giving as identitarianism. And that's what the War Campaign, right? If you slight Ethan Van Sciver, or if you slight Comicsgate, or if you slight anything that they're a part of, then you are slighting them, and they take it quite personally. So, and some of them are just trolls. Some of them, they just act like they're, because they just like to troll and like to cause conflict.
There's plenty of people like that. So Tevi, we're about to wrap up this Comicsgate discussion. Do you have one last thing or that you want to say about it before we wrap it up and move on to the weekly comic recommendations?
Yeah, I thought my concern is comic situation. I think this situation is blown way out of proportion to the point that no side's right, no side's wrong. It completely cluttered up on itself. In my opinion, that's why I stay away from all that stuff. It's so much drama, so much bullshit to the point of saying that I just can't deal with that stuff. And I didn't know Evan Scott. That's just sad and breaks my heart. But Evan Scott is a good artist, and to see all that's happened to him, and what happened to you that comics by. Sorry, that's just sad and breaks my heart because I want Evan Scott to succeed and fail. But at the same time, though, his ego got twisted to a point that he don't know what he's doing. Then that sucks because he's a very nice guy, but. If this situation can improve itself, then it'll implode and politically collapse in itself. Right? In my opinion, I think this movement is not good, but I think that's toxic. I think I hate to say this, but I think it needs to just stop and just need to end at this point. I know people are hating this, but personally, I think Comicsgate, it was a good idea at the time, but now it just got corrupted and twisted to the point it's no longer the comic that people you should know. It's a different move altogether now. My personal stance, I say it's time to let Comicsgate die, right, in my opinion. And that's just me. But if people do want to support that, go for it. For me personally, I just can't deal with it anymore. But that's why I stay far away from that. Just stop the topic altogether because it's a nightmare.
All right, so thank you, Doc. He makes an interesting point. You've been in Comicsgate, from the beginning. Is it, in your opinion, does Comicsgate just need to go away?
Oh, I honestly can't answer that question. I mean, it depends. I mean, you're back to, okay, well, what is Comicsgate at this point? Is Comicsgate the war campaign? Is it a producer movement, or is it still a consumer movement? Because as long as it's still a consumer movement, then it does not need to go away.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's now at a producer movement, and how dare you criticize any of the producers that we like, because otherwise you don't like us, then yes, it does need to go away.
All right, is there anything you want to say? One last thing you want to say about Comicsgate and the Civil War before we head on to the recommendations?
I'd like to say that for anyone listening, that's maybe you kind of came into this new, maybe you've only been around for 6 months or whatever. You didn't follow Comicsgate for the past several years, like some of us have.
Mm-hmm.
Just as a reminder that what Comicsgate was just an idea. It wasn't a group. There was no membership. There was no leader. It was the idea that we didn't want comics proselytizing to the readers, whether it be politics,
Political.
religion, social agendas, anything like that. Talk about morality is fine, but within the story, not preaching to the reader, not Spider-Man telling you what skin color you need to be, or what it's a stupid thing. Like, everyone kind of gets it. Everyone understands. It's a simple thing. It's hard to sometimes put into words, but we get it. The second thing is where it really made Comicsgate come into form was when the complaints of the fandom revolted, and then the industry fought back. And the unprofessionalism that we saw a couple of years ago, pros telling fans that they wanted them to see them dead, threatening violence, sending pictures of their nether regions. It was just horrendous. These are the things that what Comicsgate is about. It's not a membership. You're not part of a club. You're just a person who says, I'm against that. And instead of being a long-winded explanation like I'm giving right now, you just say Comicsgate. And everyone goes, I understand what you're saying. But that meaning doesn't mean the same thing anymore, because a group of pros who were legitimately ousted from the industry for the same reasons, so that Comicsgate was against, they found themselves in a pickle, and they kind of embraced the Comicsgate community and said, hey, we're going to make the comics you want. And the Comicsgate community lifted them up. Unfortunately, they kind of took that kind of, I call it hijacking. It's people debate that, but they took it and embraced it and said, that's what it's about now. And it mutated into this new thing. I call the new thing Neo Comicsgate. And the reason I do that is because I think they're two completely separate things. And to say Comicsgate, and you're like, well, which Comicsgate are you talking about? The original idea that I just explained, or this new thing? If I say Neo Comicsgate, there's no confusion. I'm talking about the war campaign guys. I'm talking about all the people flooding IGG, trying to sell you books, all this stuff. They're trying to blackpill the industry. They're trying to convince you, don't buy Marvel, don't buy DC, just buy these Indiegogo books. Otherwise, you're not a real fan. That's Neo Comicsgate to me. And the final point, if you're against using the Comicsgate hashtag, as I've heard a couple people express, I don't even want to use that hashtag anymore. I'm with you. I'm the same way. I'm like, but I still feel that same emotion. I still feel that same original concept that I stand behind. So I was like, I want to be able to express that. I came up with an idea that I'm personally using, and if you like it, you can use it too. Please do. And I'm just like, new hashtag, what would Stan do? I want to keep Stan Lee in my memory, and I think Stan Lee is one of the best embodiments of the principles of comic books and fandom. And so I just said, how can something not be insulting or offend people? I don't think Stan Lee should offend anyone. And I think what would Stan do is the hashtag I've been using, and that expresses my revolt against the bad parts of comic industry without having to jump ship and side myself with these yahoos that are warring over cherries.
Amen.
All right. So, Doc, did you have one final thing you wanted to say as well?
Doc?
No, not really. I mean,
all right.
Yeah, I think Ash pretty much covered it. Although I will say, if the what would Stan do thing, you're gonna have the same weirdos yelling at us for, trying to recruit a dead man that they did whenever that they did the Jack Kirby and even some of the comic skaters did the Jack Kirby, and somebody tried to do Darwin Cook. So that one may backfire, but I understand the sentiment, and I agree with the sentiment.
All right, Perch, do you have any last words about Comicsgate Civil War before we give our weekly recommendations?
No, I think a lot of good comments have been said. I do think I don't know, none of us know what it means anymore. Some people say, oh, no, it means this. There's too many people all using it in random ways. I think the tag has lost meaning. It's become a joke for the industry to poke at people and just continue to fight. And I know that's hard for some people to hear, but it's not a tag that's adding value. It's a tag that's just reminding people of Triple H screwing a corpse. That is exactly what it's reminding people of. And it's very sad because a ton of the principles, maybe even the majority of the principles that it was started with, absolutely are valid today. And the painful part is those things are getting obscured. The big reasons why it was started are being forgotten in favor of the nonsense war. And I want to get back to those reasons. They were good reasons. People had good ideas. We got to get back to it.
All right, Paley, I'm going to let you have the last word. You had a pretty emotional segment there earlier with your thoughts on Comicsgate. I didn't realize just how much it had affected you as of late. What's your last words to say about Comicsgate Civil War before we wrap this show up?
We were pro Comicsgate comic shop, and I was very, very proud to be Comicsgate. We had for a while on the door of the shop, we had a little CG, almost like Comicsgate is understood here. And I took it off the door because I realized that there were elements within Comicsgate that were just as bad as the social justice elements that we were fighting to begin with. And I hate to see it that way. And I don't want to see it that way. But unfortunately, we have people that have hijacked the movement that began. And I'm not pointing directly at the people that are the Indiegogo crowd. Some of those guys, solid stand-up guys, they make great products. It's the toxic jerk-offs who are trying to sow discord, is trying to just fight for the sake of fighting and cause mayhem because it's just something to do and they're bored. So at that point, I'm out, and I'll still support the principles by which Comicsgate began, but I'm not gonna support the people who are just fighting just to get attention. So that's what I'm saying. That's all I have to say about it.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's how I feel. I agree with Comicsgate and how it began. My feelings on the comic industry and what needs to be done to save it, and the things that I need that I believe need to happen. That's all the same. The hashtags changed. That's fine. I'm still who I am. I still have my friends. That's where I'm at now. I know this has probably been a little bit negative. For the last few hours, we talked about some hard subjects. I think we had some great points all around. But everyone on this panel is here because we love comics books. We love the comic industry.
Amen.
We're not here to just shit on everything. And let's end it on a good note. Let's talk about the various best comics of the week. What are we recommending this week, Tevya?
Oh, well, crap warning. I recommend Vanity Superstar issue 12, the finale of an all-pit series. This is a great book, great team book. It's ton of fun. It's a fan superstar to me. Read this book, read the entire series, read 12 issues back series, read the original series. It's a great run, and it's the one Young John Kensey wrote. It's a great book. If you have kids out there who love comics, I recommend you read this book. It's great. I also recommend them to see if a zombie story. now that Walking Dead is now officially ended, unfortunately, it is sad. But like DC was also great. Spider-Man also great. Spider-Man great always has been fixed. What other came out this week? Oh, some indie stuff by Great Always, both by Great Always, and I recommend you read and support the if you can. Well, I recommend you read just great stories. Read to see the Seek, read Event Super Sons, then Detective Comics, and well, both life from Josh Williamson, with Flash, it works. Yep.
Awesome. So if you're in the comments section and you want to tell us your comic recommendations, please put them in there and I'll read them out live on the stream. First up was Bats recommending Bigfoot Bill, Tribulation Tax Force, Chuck Dixon's Avalon, and Alt Hero. All right. So Ash, what are you recommending this week?
Oh boy. I am going to skip past this past week and go to this coming up Wednesday. Second week of the month is the best week of the comics, in my opinion. We have, as always, Hawkman. If you're not reading this, you're not buying it, I don't know what to do. You got to get this book. Hawkman number 14 comes out. Flash. I've never been a big Flash proponent, but I'm really enjoying this year one storyline that started with issue number 70. 74 comes out, and the last issue is really picked up. I really like where the story's going. Oblivion Song might be one of the best indie comics out right now by Robert Kirkman. He's just knocking this story. If you like a heavy plot-driven comic where it's just twists and turns every couple of issues, new things are happening, going in new directions that you didn't see, this book has got you covered. And you got Detective Comics. Tomasi's doing some great things. Brought in the Spectre in the storyline. Brian Hill's Batman and the Outsiders. Yeah, I think I'll stop there. That's some good recommendations.
Awesome. So March Hare, who's a great guy on Twitter. If you're not following him and you do have a Twitter, make sure you do. He's a good guy, loves comic books. He's recommending Appalachian Apocalypse by Billy Tucci and Ethan Nicole, who's from, I believe, the Babylon Bee and has a really funny Bears Want to Eat You book, I believe it is. All right, so that's what we got so far in the comments. Perch, what are you and your shop recommending this week?
Well, I mean, definitely Man-Eaters last week. You got to pick that up. It's an excellent book. A lot going on there. No,
don't do cocaine before the stream.
There's an article Bleeding Full post, and I feel bad about that because I was supposed to add some comments to that and didn't, but thankfully they put it up. Anyway, I think books try for different audiences from time to time, and that's good. We should encourage them to do that, but you can't go too far. Man-Eaters is nuts. Anyway, sorry, positive things. Look, I think for last week, some comments were made. I did want to pull out the Captain America Invaders one-shot. If you're a fan of old school comics, that's a really good one. Some nice, classic creators there that we know and like. I think that, I'll say Space Bandits by Miller is pretty solid. That's going to be a show at some point. So if you like watching comics that are going to become movies, it's a decent read, but it reads like a thing that's going to be a Netflix show because it is. Super Sons wraps up. That's a great thing to go do. I thought The Walking Dead handled its end. Yeah, there you go. I thought The Walking Dead handled its end quite well. If you're a fan of the series, I think you're probably leaving pretty satisfied, at least, as satisfied as you can get when a comic is concluding. I think I have a lot of fans for Justice League. I think that's moving to big new things. It's hit or miss. I think Justice League is a title, if you pick it up, you can tell in like 2 issues if you're going to like it or not. And then, hey, it works. If you like it, it works. I do think that Snyder writes a very good Superman right now. I think
Indeed.
That, I think he doesn't get enough credit for that. Certainly better than the current writer of Superman. Next week, I think, so I'll throw this out now as a recommendation, but if you've been trudging along with Batman, I've seen this issue now already. Batman 74 is it feels like the kicking into gear where we're going to see Batman start to actually achieve things and stop crying. So if you are waiting for that moment and you've been sticking it out with Tom King, I think he's finally going to start to deliver more happiness if you're still hanging around at this point. And then I think other stuff. I agree. Hawkman completely. Oblivion Song absolutely is a really good title that you can look for next week. Next week's going to be a stacked week in comics. There's a lot out. And then I'd wrap it up. Natural, if you're into that furry stuff. There you go. Don't know. Anyway, the last thing I'd say is, if you were following along, if you were pained by the X-Men last 9 months and you want a kind of perfect kind of synopsis for that era, and also just so absolutely terrible it starts to feel good. It definitely is that. You're getting terrible. I want you to keep that in mind. The whole Extremis line 1 through 5 that wrapped up this last week is that is the definition of just batshit crazy, terrible. So, but it's enjoyable in its terribleness. So if you see it in that line 99-cent thing and you want to just hilarious afternoon while you get solely drunk, there you go.
Boom.
Yeah. Leah Williams blocked me because I think she name searched herself and was not happy that I told her that she should be ejected from the galaxy that has X-Men comics.
Yeah, that it is. You're trying something there. I still can't quite figure out what, but hey, more people should pick up that book cheap and just try and figure out exactly what in the hell that was trying to do. But that was a amazing thing to watch. Yep. And I do think it defines the last 9 months quite well.
And it also features one of the best comic covers I've ever seen with Blob and Psylocke.
Yeah, and they're an item. So if you've been shipping Psylocke Blob, then this comic is for you. So
all right. Thank you very much for a great list, Perch. In the comments, we've got what was it? Fiona Wolf, one of the great subscribers and viewers of the channel, is saying Isola, Infinite Dark, Justice League Odyssey, Self-Made, Oblivion Song, Warlord of Mars, and Exilium. We get a little bit of alternative love here. We got Not Doctor saying Scrimshaw, and Dark Admiral March Hare is also saying Midnight Mystery, another alternative book. Ash on Comics is shouting out Justice League. Hey, you already gave your recommendations. What are you doing?
Snuck another one in.
Mecha Studios is recommending Batman the Outsiders. Also a younger title called Creepy Case Files. Didn't know about that one. Well, we got any more? Nope, looks like that's about it. So, Doc, I know you're not going to recommend anything new. What back issue should people pick out this week?
I'm going to still go with my recommendation from a couple of weeks ago that I made on Twitter, which is if you don't already own a copy of X-Men 94 and right now are a little bit priced out of buying giant-sized X-Men #1, go buy X-Men 94 because that's going to be the next one that takes a big jump once enough people realize, because giant size is going to plateau soon enough and it'll sit around that level for a while, but 94 is going to start kicking up and then it will get to that unachievable level too. So go buy that. Let's see. You know what? I've actually been a big fan of going back and buying probably from issue about 20 through about issue 60 of the Solo Wolverine series from the late 80s and early 90s. It was Larry Hama and Mark Silvestri. Their run on it, really, really good. So go pick that up too. And it's relatively cheap. You can probably find most of those in the dollar bin.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So also in the chats, we've got Bat saying Flying Sparks from JDA. Rusty Deo saying Soul Finder. He's looking forward to that one. Also says that they were translating Exilium #3. I think that I'm not sure what language that might be. I don't know what the language is. I don't believe it's Korean. Well, maybe it is. I think it actually is Korean.
Looks Japanese.
What? Okay,
I
maybe
could be wrong, but
all right. Bats is
that's Japanese.
Okay, it is Japanese. Okay. Looks like he's translating into Japanese. Bats is recommending Go-Go Power Rangers. And all right, that's about it for now. Pele, what's your shop recommending this week?
Well, what we recommend every month at this time, which is Immortal Hulk. And it's still consistently great. That it's still got that wonderful Bronze Age horror feel. We've got a recurring. God almighty, what the hell? We got the recurring elements that have come back from previous runs of the Hulk. If you're familiar with the Harpy, then and there's a twist on it this time. So it's really, really good. I really enjoyed reading it. So Immortal Hulk from Marvel. DC, I'm going to go, well, somebody already mentioned Batman the Outsider, so I'm going to go with Detective. Tomasi's still doing a decent job with it. It's definitely the better of the Batman books as far as the two main Batman books. So if you need your Batman fix, then Batman the Outsiders and Detective.
Awesome.
And that's what we got.
Sounds good. So one of my recommendations was going to be Space Bandits as well. I actually read that. I was surprised. It was much better than the cover looked. I didn't like the cover at all. I read the book. It was pretty good. The big one for me this week is Batman Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles issue 3. Excellent, damn near a 5-star book in my opinion. It's like a 4.5, like teetering on a 5. Excellent story. Also, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is in the City at War story arc. So if you like that series, it's also being good. You should see a double review on the channel somewhat soonish on those two, and probably Time Bandits as well, or Space Bandits. I love Time Bandits. So let's wrap it up, and everyone can let the viewers know where they can find you. Tevye has a great YouTube channel. He doesn't just do comic books. He talks about movies. He'll talk about TV shows. If it's pop culture, Tevye covers it. It's a great channel. Tevye, where can they find you, buddy?
You can find my YouTube channel, Tevye Smoker. You can find my Twitter. You can find my Facebook. Or group with then also find my YouTube channel in the description. And have me at the on being critical. Again, we're doing next discussion on. Actually, I'm going to do more webpage guys back from home. Stay tuned for that. Maybe on Sunday. Hopefully, everybody going to plan. And we also follow me at the on Twitch. Twitch. You can follow me on twitch.tv at Tevye Smoker. And then join me and do a great discussion. Yep.
Awesome. Doc, where can the people find you, sir? Uh-oh, he just left. Pele, where can the people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at @just_Pele, where I talk about comics and politics and things that interest me. I get salty on there sometimes, so be forewarned. But if you want basically just comic covers and talking about comics in general, and especially collectible comics, then follow me on Instagram also at, what the hell is that?
That's Doc.
@just_Pele. And Doc is showing us the street level view.
Yep.
All right. Slightly salty. Yeah, slightly. Yeah.
All right, Doc, where can people find you? It sounds like you're in a hurricane.
Yeah, sorry guys, I'm still waiting for my goddamn car to get done. You can just find me on Twitter @ScienceJesus. Watch me while I somehow manage to find every weak spot on every pro on the planet, so that they will all block me slowly.
Sounds fun.
It's very true. So I believe he got the EBS block this week. Do a little, little interactions. But he's also got Donnie Cates and and
Scott
people that
Snyder, Tom King. Well, Leah Williams, Mags.
It's a long list. Yeah,
it's a long list.
We can't do that. We don't have time for it. All right. If you aren't following Ash on Comics, you're doing it wrong. If you like in-depth looks at comic books where he goes really in, breaks it all down, gives you his thoughts on what works, what doesn't work, and all that good noise, you definitely need to be following Ash on Comics. He does he does less Comicsgate stuff, but he's definitely expanded out his his coverage to include more indie books, things of that nature. Ash, where can people find you?
Thanks, buddy. That was really nice. Nice lead in there. You can find me on Ash on Comics, 3 words, just like my name here on the YouTubes. You can also click on the icons in the chat, take you right to my channel. You can find me on Twitter under the name Ash1138. And there on Twitter, Twitter's where I do more of my political stuff. If you want me to be salty about Comicsgate stuff or politics, I'll do it on Twitter. On my channel, I'll mention things here or there mostly, but I really try to focus on comics, and I really try to work hard. I don't always succeed, but I do try to work hard to capture the enthusiasm and be positive, because as we all know, there's plenty to go around if you want to just hear people hating on stuff. And I try to just offer something different.
That you do, sir. It's a great channel. Appreciate all your content. Finally, we got Perch. He has a brand new, well, it's not brand new anymore. He's got a comic or YouTube channel as well. Goes into the intricacies of the industry. He does some comic reviews here and there if they're really pertinent, and he sees something that stands out. But if you want to see how the comic industry works from his perspective, whether it be variant covers, things of all that nature, follow his YouTube channel. Perch, give everybody your information.
Thank you. And thanks for having me here, and great conversation with everybody. There's a YouTube channel. Join. It's fun stuff. I just try and pick a topic every day. There's new videos every day. No drama. So if you're into that, then there's better channels for you. Twitter, Comic Perch. Like you said, I talk about the industry. I joke about some random pop culture things, and I like to spoil clickbait nude sites. So if you're into that, I love spoiling their crap. So there you go. And I'm more salty in the evening. So there you have it.
Oh, I also forgot. If you want to see somebody get dumped on by both sides of the comics debate, follow Perch on Twitter.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, watch me say things about. Watch me say innocuous things like overships don't cost the store money other than shipping, and watch both sides get pissed. It's fun entertainment for everybody.
Absolutely,
it's true. We need to talk about that at some point. We need to have a talk about that at some point. The overships and things of that nature on some weekend with me and Perch on.
Okay. All right. The next, I believe, 2 weekends are filled up, but we'll schedule one after that. Also, thank you to the two new subscribers for the channel during the show. Really appreciate it. I think we're up to 672 now. And also, thank you to Rusty Dale for following me on Twitter. I got you a follow back. Appreciate interacting with any of my viewers and subscribers. I love talking comics all the time, and I don't get as much time to do it as I used to, with the channel now. But that's what I like to do. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's @Wes_from_TC. I think that's the show, people. So Salamat po, and I'm out.
Thanks for everybody.
Later.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
And we're
It's time to dance.